Simon & Schuster Audio presents Slammed, a novel by Colleen Hoover. Read by Heidi Baker. This book is dedicated to the Avett brothers for giving me the motivation to decide what to be and go be it. Part 1. Chapter 1. I'm as nowhere as I can be. Could you add some somewhere to me? The Avett brothers, Selena. Cal and I load the last 2 boxes into the U-Haul. I slide the door down and pull the latch shut, locking up 18 years of memories, all of which include my dad. It's been 6 months since he passed away. Long enough that my 9-year-old brother, Kel, doesn't cry every time we talk about him, but recent enough that we're being forced to accept the financial aftermath that comes to a newly single-parented household, a household that can't afford to remain in Texas, and in the only home I've ever known. "Lake, stop being such a downer," my mom says, handing me the keys to the house. "I think you'll love Michigan." She never calls me by the name she legally gave me. She and my dad argued for 9 months over what I would be named. She loved the name Layla, after the Eric Clapton song. Dad loved the name Kennedy, after a Kennedy. "It doesn't matter which Kennedy," he would say. "I love them all." I was almost 3 days old before the hospital forced them to decide. They agreed to take the first 3 letters of both names and compromised on Layken, but neither of them has ever once referred to me as such. I mimic my mother's tone. "Mom, stop being such an upper. I'm going to hate Michigan." My mother has always had an ability to deliver an entire lecture with a single glance. I get the glance. I walk up the porch steps and head inside the house to make a walkthrough before the final turn of the key. All of the rooms are eerily empty. It doesn't seem as though I'm walking through the house where I've lived since the day I was born. These last 6 months have been a whirlwind of emotions, all of them bad. Moving out of this home was inevitable. I realize that. I just expected it to happen after the end of my senior year. I'm standing in what is no longer our kitchen when I catch a glimpse of a purple plastic hair clip under the cabinet in the space where the refrigerator once stood. I pick it up, wipe the dust off of it, and run it back and forth between my fingers. "It'll grow back," Dad said. I was 5 years old, and my mother had left her trimming scissors on the bathroom counter. Apparently, I had done what most kids of that age do. I cut my own hair. "Mommy's going to be so mad at me," I cried. I thought that if I cut my hair, it would immediately grow back, and no one would notice. I cut a pretty wide chunk out of my bangs and sat in front of the mirror for probably an hour, waiting for the hair to grow back. I picked the straight brown strands up off the floor and held them in my hand, contemplating how I could secure them back to my head, when I began to cry. When Dad walked into the bathroom and saw what I had done, he just laughed and scooped me up, then positioned me on the countertop. "Mommy's not going to notice, Lake," he promised as he removed something out of the bathroom cabinet. "I just happen to have a piece of magic right here." He opened up his palm and revealed the purple clip. "As long as you have this in your hair, Mommy will never know." He brushed the remaining strands of hair across and secured the clip in place. He then turned me around to face the mirror. "See? Good as new." I looked at our reflection in the mirror and felt like the luckiest girl in the world. I didn't know of any other dad who had magic clips. I wore that clip in my hair every day for 2 months, and my mother never once mentioned it. Now that I look back on it, I realize he probably told her what I had done. But when I was 5, I believed in his magic. I look more like my mother than like him. Mom and I are both of average height. After having 2 kids, she can't really fit into my jeans, but we're pretty good at sharing everything else. We both have brown hair that, depending on the weather, is either straight or wavy. Her eyes are a deeper emerald than mine, although it could be that the paleness of her skin just makes them more prominent. I favor my dad in all the ways that count. We had the same dry sense of humor, the same personality, the same love of music, the same laugh. Kel is a different story. He takes after our dad physically with his dirty blonde hair and soft features. He's on the small side for 9 years old, but his personality makes up for what he lacks in size. I walk to the sink and turn it on, rubbing my thumb over the 13 years of grime collected on the hair clip. Kel walks backwards into the kitchen, just as I'm drying my hands on my jeans. He's a strange kid, but I couldn't love him more. He has a game he likes to play that he calls Backward Day, in which he spends most of the time walking everywhere backward, talking backward, and even requesting dessert first. I guess with such a big age difference between him and me, and no other siblings, he has to find a way to entertain himself somehow. "Hurry to says, Mom Layken," he says backward. I place the hair clip in the pocket of my jeans and head back out the door, locking up my home for the very last time. Over the next few days, my mother and I alternate driving my Jeep and the U-Haul, stopping only twice at hotels to sleep. Kel switches between Mom and me, riding the final day with me in the U-Haul. We complete the last exhausting 9-hour stretch through the night, only stopping once for a short break. As we close in on our new town of Ypsilanti, I take in my surroundings and the fact that it's September, but my heater is on. I'll definitely need a new wardrobe. As I make a final right-hand turn onto our street, my GPS informs me that I've reached my destination. My destination. I laugh aloud to myself. My GPS doesn't know squat. The cul-de-sac is not very long, lined with about 8 single-story brick houses on each side of the street. There's a basketball goal in one of the driveways, which gives me hope that Kel might have someone to play with. Honestly, it looks like a decent neighborhood. The lawns are manicured, the sidewalks are clean, but there's too much concrete. Way too much concrete. I already miss home. Our new landlord emailed us pictures of the house, so I immediately spot which one is ours. It's small. It's really small. We had a ranch-style home on several acres of land in Texas. The minuscule amount of land surrounding this home is almost nothing but concrete and garden gnomes. The front door is propped open, and I see an older man who I assume is our new landlord come outside and wave. I drive about 50 yards past the house so that I can back into the driveway where the rear of the U-Haul will face the front door. Before I put the gear shift in reverse, I reach over and shake Kel awake. He's been passed out since Indiana. "Kel, wake up," I whisper. "We've reached our destination." He stretches his legs out and yawns, then leans his forehead against the window to get a look at our new house. "Hey, there's a kid in the yard," Kel says. "Do you think he lives in our house too?" "He better not," I reply. "But he's probably a neighbor. Hop out and go introduce yourself while I back up." When the U-Haul is successfully backed in, I put the gear shift in park, roll down the windows, and kill the engine. My mother pulls in beside me in my Jeep, and I watch as she gets out and greets the landlord. I crouch down a few inches in the seat and prop my foot against the dash, watching Kel and his new friend sword fight with imaginary swords in the street. I'm jealous of him. Jealous of the fact that he can accept the move so easily, and I'm stuck being the angry, bitter child. He was upset when Mom first decided on the move, mostly because he was in the middle of his Little League season. He had friends he would miss, but at the age of 9, your best friend is usually imaginary and transatlantic. Mom subdued him pretty easily by promising he could sign up for hockey, something he wanted to do in Texas. It was a hard sport to come by in the rural South. After she agreed to that, he was pretty upbeat, if not stoked, about Michigan. I understand why we had to move. Dad had made a respectable living managing a paint store. Mom worked PRN as a nurse when she needed to, but mostly tended to the house and to us. About a month after he died, she was able to find a full-time job. I could see the stress of my father's death taking its toll on her, along with being the new head of household. One night over dinner, she explained to us that she wasn't left with enough income to continue paying all the bills and the mortgage. She said there was a job that could pay her more, but we would have to move. She was offered a job by her old high school friend, Brenda. They grew up together in my mother's hometown of Ypsilanti, right outside of Detroit. It paid more than anything she could find in Texas, so she had no choice but to accept. I don't blame her for the move. My grandparents are deceased, and she has no one to help her. I understand why we had to do it, but understanding a situation doesn't always make it easier. "Layken, you're dead," Kel shouts through the open window, thrusting his imaginary sword into my neck. He waits for me to slump over, but I just roll my eyes at him. "I stabbed you. You're supposed to die," he says. "Believe me, I'm already dead," I mumble as I open the door and climb out. Kel's shoulders are slumped forward, and he's staring down at the concrete, his imaginary sword limp by his side. Kel's new friend stands behind him, looking just as defeated, causing me immediately to regret the transference of my bad mood. "I'm already dead," I say in my best monster voice. "Because I'm a zombie!" They start screaming as I stretch my arms out in front of me, cock my head to the side, and make a gurgling sound. "Brains!" I grumble, walking stiff-legged after them around the U-Haul. "Brains!" I slowly round the front of the U-Haul, holding my arms out in front of me, when I notice someone grasping my brother and his new friend by the collars of their shirts. "Get 'em!" the stranger yells as he holds the two screaming boys. He looks a couple of years older than me, and quite a bit taller. Hot would be how most girls would describe him, but I'm not most girls. The boys are flailing around, and his muscles flex under his shirt as he tries hard to maintain his grip on them. Unlike Kel and me, these two are unmistakably siblings. Aside from the obvious age difference, they're identical. They both have the same smooth olive skin, the same jet black hair, even the same cropped hairstyle. He's laughing as Kel breaks free and starts slicing at him with his sword. He looks up at me and mouths, "Help," when I realize I'm still frozen in my zombie pose. My first instinct is to crawl back inside the U-Haul and hide on the floorboard for the remainder of my life. Instead, I yell, "Brains!" once more and lunge forward, pretending to bite the younger boy on top of his head. I grab Kel and his new friend and start tickling them until they melt into heaps on the concrete driveway. As I straighten up, the older brother extends his hand. "Hey, I'm Will. We live across the street," he says, pointing to the house directly across from ours. I reciprocate his handshake. "I'm Layken. I guess I live here," I say, as I glance toward the house behind me. He smiles. Our handshake lingers, as neither one of us says anything. I hate awkward moments. "Well, welcome to Ypsilanti," he says. He pulls his hand from mine and puts it in his jacket pocket. "Where are you guys moving here from?" "Texas?" I reply. I'm not sure why the tail end of my reply comes out like a question. I'm not sure why I'm even analyzing why it came out like a question. I'm not sure why I'm analyzing the reason why I'm analyzing. I'm flustered. It must be the lack of sleep I've gotten over the past 3 days. "Texas, huh?" he says. He's rocking back and forth on his heels. The awkwardness intensifies when I fail to respond. He glances down at his brother and bends over, grabbing him by the ankles. "I've got to get this little guy to school," he says as he swings his brother up and over his shoulders. "There's a cold front coming through tonight. You should try to get as much unloaded today as you can. It's supposed to last a few days, so if you guys need help unloading this afternoon, let me know. We should be home around 4. "Sure, thanks," I say. They head across the street, and I'm still watching them when Kel stabs me in my lower back. I drop to my knees and clutch at my stomach, crouching forward as Kel climbs on top of me and finishes me off. I glance across the street again and see Will watching us. He shuts his brother's car door, walks around to the driver's side door, and waves goodbye. It takes us most of the day to unload all the boxes and furniture. Our landlord helps move the larger items that Mom and I can't lift on our own. We're too tired to get to the boxes inside the Jeep and agreed to put it off until tomorrow. I'm a little disappointed when the U-Haul is finally empty. I no longer have an excuse to solicit Will's help. As soon as my bed is put together, I start grabbing boxes with my name on them from the hallway. I get most of them unpacked and my bed made, when I notice the furniture in my bedroom casting shadows across the walls. I look out my window, and the sun is setting. Either the days are a lot shorter here, or I've lost track of time. In the kitchen, I find Mom and Kel unloading dishes into the cabinets. I climb into one of the 6 tall chairs at the bar, which also doubles as the dining room table, because of the lack of dining room. There isn't much to this house. When you walk through the front door, there's a small entryway, followed by the living room. The living room is separated from the kitchen by nothing more than a hallway to the left and a window to the right. The living room's beige carpet is edged by hardwood that leads throughout the rest of the house. Everything is so clean here, my mother says as she continues putting away dishes. I haven't seen a single insect. Texas has more insects than blades of grass. If you aren't swatting flies, you're killing wasps. That's one good thing about Michigan, I guess, I reply. I open up a box of pizza in front of me and eye the selection. One good thing? She winks at me as she leans across the bar, grabs the pepperoni and pops it into her mouth. I think that would be at least 2 good things. I pretend I'm not following. I saw you talking to that boy this morning, she says with a smile. Oh, please, Mom, I reply as indifferently as I can get away with. I'm pretty positive we'll find it no surprise that Texas isn't the only state inhabited by the male species. I walk to the refrigerator and grab a soda. What's inhabited? Cal asks. Inhabited, I correct him. It means to occupy, dwell, reside, populate, squat, live. My SAT prep courses are paying off. Oh, kind of like how we inhabited Ypsilanti, he says. Inhabited, I correct him again. I finish my slice of pizza and take another sip of the soda. I'm beat, guys. I'm going to bed. You mean you're going to inhabit your bedroom? Kel says. You're a quick learner, young grasshopper. I bend and kiss the top of his head and retreat to my room. It feels so good to crawl under the covers. At least my bed is familiar. I close my eyes and try to imagine that I'm in my old bedroom. My old, warm bedroom. My sheets and pillow are ice cold, so I pull the covers over my head to generate some heat. Note to self, locate the thermostat first thing in the morning. And that's exactly what I set out to do as soon as I crawl out of bed and my bare feet meet the ice-cold floor beneath them. I grab a sweater out of my closet and throw it on over my pajamas while I search for socks. It's a futile attempt. I quietly tiptoe down the hallway, trying not to wake anyone, while at the same time attempting to expose the least possible amount of foot to the coldness of the hardwood. As I pass Kel's room, I spot his Darth Vader house shoes on the floor. I sneak in and slip them on, finally finding some relief as I head into the kitchen. I look around for the coffee pot but don't find it. I remember packing it in the Jeep, which is unfortunate since the Jeep is parked outside. Outside in this absurdly cold weather. The jackets are nowhere to be found. Septembers in Texas rarely call for jackets. I grab the keys and decide I'll just have to make a mad dash to the Jeep. I open the front door, and some sort of white substance is all over the yard. It takes me a second to realize what it is. Snow? In September? I bend down and scoop some up in my hands and examine it. It doesn't snow that often in Texas, but when it does, it isn't this kind of snow. Texas snow is more like minuscule pieces of rock-hard hail. Michigan snow is just how I imagined real snow would be. Fluffy, soft, and cold. I quickly drop the snow and dry my hands on my sweatshirt as I head toward the Jeep. I don't make it far. The second those Darth Vader house shoes meet the snow-dusted concrete, I'm no longer looking at the Jeep in front of me. I'm flat on my back, staring up at the clear blue sky. I immediately feel the pain in my right shoulder and realize I've landed on something hard. I reach around and pull a concrete guard gnome out from beneath me, half of his red hat broken off and shattered into pieces. He's smirking at me. I groan and raise the gnome with my good arm and pull it back, preparing to chuck the thing, when someone stops me. "That's not a good idea." I immediately recognize Will's voice. The sound of it is smooth and soothing like my father's was, but at the same time has an authoritative edge to it. I sit upright and see him walking up the driveway toward me. "Are you okay?" He laughs. "I'll feel a lot better after I bust this damn thing," I say, trying to pull myself up with no success. "You don't want to do that. Gnomes are good luck," he says as he reaches me. He takes the gnome out of my hands and gently places it on the snow-covered grass. "Yeah," I reply, taking in the gash on my shoulder that has now formed a bright red circle on my sweater sleeve. "Real good luck." Will stops laughing when he sees the blood on my shirt. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I wouldn't have laughed if I knew you were hurt." He bends over and takes my uninjured arm and pulls me up. "You need to get a bandage on that." I wouldn't have a clue where to find one at this point, I reply, referring to the mounds of unopened boxes we have yet to unpack. "You'll have to walk with me. There's some in our kitchen." He removes his jacket and wraps it around my shoulders, holding onto my arm as he walks me across the street. I feel a little pathetic with him assisting me. I can walk on my own. I don't object, though, and I feel like a hypocrite to the entire feminist movement. I've regressed to the damsel in distress. I remove his jacket and lay it across the back of the couch, then follow him into the kitchen. It's still dark inside, so I assume everyone is still asleep. His house is more spacious than ours. The open floor plans are similar, but the living room seems to be a few feet larger. A large bay window with a sitting bench and large pillows looks out over the backyard. Several family pictures hang along the wall opposite the kitchen. Most of them are of Will and his little brother, with a few pictures that include his parents. I walk over to inspect the pictures while Will looks for a bandage. They must have gotten their genes from their dad. In one picture, which seems like the most recent but still looks a few years dated, his dad has his arms around the two boys, and he's squeezing them together for an impromptu photo. His jet black hair is speckled with gray, and a thick black mustache outlines his huge smile. His features are identical to Will's. They both have eyes that smile when they laugh, exposing perfect white teeth. Will's mother is breathtaking. She has long blonde hair and, from the pictures at least, looks tall. I can't pick out any facial features of hers that were passed on to her boys. Maybe Will has her personality. All of the pictures on the wall prove one big difference between our houses. This one is a home. I walk into the kitchen and take a seat at the bar. "It needs to be cleaned before you put the bandage on it," he says as he rolls up his shirt sleeves and turns on the faucet. He's wearing a pale yellow button-down collared shirt that is slightly transparent under the kitchen lights, revealing the outline of his undershirt. He has broad shoulders, and his sleeves are snug around the muscles in his arms. The top of his head meets the cabinet above him, and I estimate from the similarities in our kitchens that he stands about 6 inches taller than me. I'm staring at the pattern on his black tie, which is flipped over his shoulder to avoid getting it wet, when he turns the water off and walks back to the bar. I feel my face flush as I grab the wet napkin out of his hands, not proud of the amount of attention his physique is getting from me. "It's fine," I say, pulling my sleeve down over my shoulder. "I can get it." He opens the bandage as I wipe the blood off the wound. "So, what were you doing outside in your pajamas at 7 o'clock in the morning?" he asks. "Are you guys still unloading?" I shake my head and toss the napkin into the trash can. "Coffee." "Oh, I guess you aren't a morning person." Will says this is more of a statement than a question. As he moves in closer to place the bandage on my shoulder, I feel his breath on my neck. I rub my arms to hide the chills that are creeping up them. He adheres it to my shoulder and pats it. "There, good as new," he says. "Thanks, and I am a morning person," I say, after I get my coffee. I stand up and look over my shoulder, pretending to inspect the bandage as I plot my next move. I already thanked him. I could turn and walk out now, but that would seem rude after he just helped me. If I just stand here waiting on him to make more small talk, I might look stupid for not leaving. I don't understand why I'm even contemplating basic actions around him. He's just another inhabitant. When I turn around, he's at the counter, pouring a cup of coffee. He walks toward me and sets it on the bar in front of me. You want cream or sugar? I shake my head. Black is fine, thanks. He's leaning across the bar watching me as I drink the coffee. His eyes are the exact same hue of deep green as his mother's are in the picture. I guess he did get a feature from her. He smiles and breaks our gaze by looking down at his watch. I need to go. My brother's waiting in the car, and I've got to get to work, he says. I'll walk you back. You can keep the cup. I look at the cup before taking another sip and notice the big letters emblazoned on the side. World's Greatest Dad. It's exactly the same as the cup my father used to drink coffee from. I'll be okay, I say as I head toward the front door. I think I've got the whole walking erect thing down now. He follows me outside and shuts his front door behind him, insisting I take his jacket with me. I pull it on over my shoulders, thank him again, and head across the street. Layken, he yells just as I'm about to walk back inside my house. I turn back toward him and he's standing in his driveway. May the force be with you. He laughs and hops into his car as I stand there, staring down at the Darth Vader house shoes I'm still sporting. Classic. The coffee helps. I locate the thermostat, and by lunch, the house has finally started to warm up. Mom and Kel have gone to the utility company to get everything switched into her name, and I'm left with the last of the boxes, if you don't count what's still in the Jeep. I get a few more things unpacked and decide it's high time for a shower. I'm pretty sure I'm closing in on day 3 of my granola girl look. I get out of the shower and wrap myself in a towel, flipping my hair forward as I brush it out and blow dry it. When it's dry, I point the blow dryer at the fogged-up mirror, forming a clear circular area so that I can apply a little makeup. I notice my tan has started to fade. There won't be much lying out here, so I might as well get used to a slightly paler complexion. I brush my hair and pull it back into a ponytail and put on some lip gloss and mascara. I forego the blush, since there no longer seems to be a need for it. Between the weather and my brief encounters with Will, my cheeks seem to stay red. Mom and Kel have already returned and gone again while I was in the shower. There is a note from her informing me she and Kel are following her friend Brenda into the city to return the U-Haul. 3 $20 bills are on the counter next to the car keys and a grocery list. I snatch them up and head to the Jeep, reaching it successfully this time. I realize as I'm putting the car into reverse that I have absolutely no idea where I'm going. I know nothing about this town, much less whether I need to turn left or right off my own street. Will's little brother is in their front yard, so I pull the car up parallel to their curb and roll down my passenger window. Hey, come here for a sec, I yell at him. He looks at me and hesitates. Maybe he thinks I'm going to bust out in zombie mode again. He walks towards the car but stops 3 feet short of the window. How do I get to the closest grocery store? I ask him. He rolls his eyes. Seriously, I'm 9. Okay, so the resemblance to his brother is only skin deep. Well, thanks for nothing, I say. What's your name, anyway? He smiles at me mischievously and yells, Darth Vader. He's laughing as he runs in the opposite direction of the car. Darth Vader? I realize the significance of his response. He's making a crack about the house shoes I had on this morning. Not a big deal. The big deal is that Will must have been talking about me to him. I can't help but try to imagine the conversation between them and what Will thinks about me, if he even thinks about me. For some reason, I've been thinking about him more than I'm comfortable with. I keep wondering how old he is, what his major is, whether he's single. Luckily, I didn't leave any boyfriends behind in Texas. I haven't dated anyone in almost a year. Between high school, my part-time job, and helping out with Kel Sports, I hadn't had much time for boys. I realize it's going to be an adjustment, going from a person with absolutely no free time to a person with absolutely nothing to do. I reach into the glove box to retrieve my GPS. That's not a good idea, Will says. I look up to see him walking toward the car. I make my best attempt to stifle the smile that's trying to take over my face. What's not a good idea? I say as I insert the GPS into its holder and power it on. He crosses his arms and leans in the window of the car. There's quite a bit of construction going on right now. That thing will get you lost. I'm about to respond when Brenda pulls up alongside me with my mother. Brenda rolls down her driver's side window, and my mother leans across the seat. Don't forget laundry detergent. I can't remember if I put it on the list. And cough syrup. I think I'm coming down with something, she says through the window. Kel jumps out of the back seat, runs to Will's brother, and invites him inside to look at our house. Can I? Will's brother asks him. Sure, Will says as he opens my passenger door. I'll be back in a little while, Calder. I'm riding with Layken to the store. He is? I shoot a look in his direction and he's buckling his seatbelt. I don't give very good verbal directions. Mind if I go with you? I guess not. I laugh. I look back toward Brenda and my mother, but they have already pulled forward into the driveway. I put the car in drive and listen as Will gives me directions out of the neighborhood. So, Calder is your little brother's name? I say, making a half-hearted attempt at small talk. One and only. My parents tried for years to have another baby after me. They eventually had Calder when names like Will weren't that cool anymore. I like your name, I say. I regret saying it as soon as it comes out of my mouth. It sounds like a lame attempt at flirting. He laughs. I like his laugh. I hate that I like his laugh. It startles me when I feel him brush the hair off my shoulder and touch my neck. His fingers slip under the collar of my shirt, and he pulls it slightly down over my shoulder. You're going to need a new bandage soon. He pulls my shirt back up and gives it a pat. His fingers leave a streak of heat across my neck. Remind me to grab some at the store, I say, trying to prove that his actions and his presence have no effect on me whatsoever. So, Layken, he pauses as he glances past me at the boxes still piled high in the back seat. Tell me about yourself. No, that's so cliché, I say. He laughs. Fine, I'll figure you out myself. He leans forward and hits eject on my CD player. His movements are so fluid, like he's been rehearsing them for years. I envy this about him. I've never been known for my grace. You know, you can tell a lot about a person by their taste in music. He pulls the CD out and examines the label. Layken's shit? He says aloud and laughs. Is shit descriptive here or possessive? I don't like Kel touching my shit, okay? I grab the CD out of his hands and insert it back into the player. When the banjo pours out of the speakers at full volume, I'm immediately embarrassed. I'm from Texas, but I don't want him mistaking this for country music. If there's one thing I don't miss about Texas, it's the country music. I reach over and turn down the volume when he grabs my hand in objection. Turn it back up, I know this, he says. His hand remains clasped on top of mine. My fingers are still on the volume, so I turn it back up. There's no way he knows this. I realize he's bluffing, his own lame attempt at flirting. Oh yeah? I say. I'll call his bluff. What's it called? It's the Avett Brothers, he says. I call it Gabriella, but I think it's the end to one of their Pretty Girl songs. I love the end of this one when they break out with the electric guitars. His response to my question startles me. He really does know this. You like the Avett Brothers? I love them. They played in Detroit last year. Best live show I've ever seen. A rush of adrenaline shoots through my body as I look down at his hand, still holding on to mine, still holding on to the volume button. I like it, but I'm mad at myself for liking it. Boys have given me the butterflies before, but I usually have more control over my susceptibility to such mundane movements. He notices me noticing our hands, and he lets go, rubbing his palms on his pant legs. It seems like a nervous gesture, and I'm curious whether he shares my uneasiness. I tend to listen to music that isn't mainstream. It's rare when I meet someone that has even heard of half the bands I love. The Avett Brothers are my all-time favorite. My father and I would stay up at night and sing some of the songs together as he attempted to work out the chords on his guitar. He described them to me once. He said, "Lake, You know a band has true talent when their imperfections define perfection. I eventually understood what he meant when I started really listening to them. Broken banjo strings, momentary passionate lapses of harmony, voices that go from smooth to gravelly to all-out screaming in a single verse. All these things add substance, character, and believability to their music. After my father died, my mother gave me an early present he had intended to give me for my 18th birthday, a pair of Avett Brothers concert tickets. I cried when she gave them to me, thinking about how much my father was probably looking forward to giving me the gift himself. I knew he would have wanted me to use them, but I couldn't. The concert was just weeks after his death, and I knew I wouldn't be able to enjoy it. Not like I would have if he were with me. I love them, too, I say unsteadily. Have you ever seen them play live? Will asks. I'm not sure why, but as we talk, I tell him the entire story about my dad. He listens intently, interrupting only to instruct me when and where to turn. I tell him all about our passion for music. I tell him about how my father died suddenly and extremely unexpectedly of a heart attack. I tell him about my birthday present and the concert we never made it to. I don't know why I keep talking, but I can't seem to shut myself up. I never divulge information so freely, especially to people I barely know. Especially to guys I barely know. I'm still talking when I realize we've come to a stop in a grocery store parking lot. Wow, I say as I take in the time on the clock. Is that the quickest way to the store? That drive took 20 minutes. He winks at me and opens his door. No, actually it's not. That's definitely flirting, and I definitely have butterflies. The snow flurries start to mix with sleet as we're making our way through the parking lot. Run, he says. He takes my hand in his and pulls me faster toward the entrance. We're out of breath and laughing when we make it inside the store, shaking the wetness from our clothes. I take my jacket off and shake it out when his hand brushes against my face, wiping away a strand of wet hair that's stuck to my cheek. His hand is cold, but the moment his fingers graze my skin, I forget about the frigid temperatures as my face grows warm. His smile fades as we both stare at each other. I'm still trying to become accustomed to the reactions I have around him. The slightest touch and simplest gestures have such an intense effect on my senses. I clear my throat and break our stare as I grab an available cart next to us. I hand him the grocery list. Does it always snow in September? I ask in an attempt to appear unfazed by his touch. No, it won't last more than a few days, maybe a week. Most of the time, the snow doesn't start until late October, he says. You're lucky. Lucky? Yeah. It's a pretty rare cold front. You got here right in time. Huh. I assumed most of y'all would hate the snow. Doesn't it snow here most of the year? He laughs. Y'all? What? Nothing, he says with a smile. I've just never heard anyone say y'all in real life before. It's cute. So Southern Belle. Oh, I'm sorry, I say. From now on, I'll do like you Yankees and waste my breath by saying, all you guys. He laughs and nudges my shoulder. Don't. I like your accent. It's perfect. I can't believe I've actually turned into a girl who swoons over a guy. I detest it so much. I start to inspect his features more intently, trying to find a flaw. I can't. Everything about him so far is perfect. We get the items on our list and head to the checkout. He refuses to let me put anything on the conveyor belt, so I just stand back and watch as he unloads the items from the buggy. The last item he places on the line is a box of bandages. I never even saw him grab them. When we pull out of the grocery store, Will tells me to turn in the direction opposite to the one from which we came. We drive maybe 2 whole blocks when he instructs me to turn left, onto our street. The drive that took us 20 minutes on the way there takes us less than a minute on the way back. Nice, I say when I pull in my driveway. I realize what he's done and that the flirtation on his end is blatantly obvious. Will is already rounded to the back of the Jeep, so I press the trunk lever for him. I get out and walk to where he is, expecting him to have an armload of groceries. Instead, he's just standing there holding the trunk up, watching me. With my best Southern Belle impression, I place my hand across my chest and say, "Why, I never would have been able to find the store without your help. Thank you so much for your hospitality, kind sir." I sort of expect him to laugh, but he just stands there, staring at me. "What?" I say nervously. He takes a step toward me and softly cups my chin with his free hand. I'm shocked by my own reaction, the fact that I allow it. He studies my face for a few seconds as my heart races within my chest. I think he's about to kiss me. I attempt to calm my breathing as I stare up at him. He steps in even closer and removes his hand from my chin and places it on the back of my neck, leaning my head in toward him. His lips press gently against my forehead, lingering a few seconds before he releases his hand and steps back. "You're so cute," he says. He reaches into the trunk and grabs 4 sacks with one hefty swoop. He walks toward the house and sets them outside the door. I'm frozen, attempting to absorb the last 15 seconds of my life. Where did that come from? Why did I just stand there and let him do that? Despite my objections, I realize, almost pathetically, that I have just experienced the most passionate kiss I've ever received from a guy, and it was on the freaking forehead. As Will reaches into the trunk for another handful of groceries, Kel and Calder run out of the house, followed by my mother. The boys dart across the street to check out Calder's bedroom. Will politely extends his hand out to my mother when she walks toward us. "You must be Layken and Kel's mom. I'm Will Cooper. We live across the street." "Julia Cohen," she says. "You're Calder's older brother?" "Yes, ma'am," he replies. "Older by 12 years. "So that makes you 21? She glances at me and gives me a quick wink. I am standing behind Will at this point, so I take the opportunity to reciprocate one of her infamous glares. She just smiles and turns her attention back to Will. "Well, I'm glad Kel and Lake were able to make friends so fast," she says. "Me too," he replies. She turns and heads inside but purposely nudges me with her shoulder as she passes. She doesn't speak a word, but I know what she's hinting at. She's giving me her approval. Will reaches in for the last 2 sacks. "Lake, huh? I like that." He hands me the sacks and shuts the trunk. "So, Lake." He leans back against the car and crosses his arms. "Calder and I are going to Detroit on Friday. We'll be gone until late Sunday, family stuff," he says, with a dismissing wave of his hand. "I was wondering if you had any plans for tomorrow night before I go." It's the first time anyone has ever called me Lake, other than my mom and dad. I like it. I lean my shoulder against the car and face him. I try to keep my cool, but inside I'm screaming with excitement. "Are you really going to make me admit that I have absolutely no life here?" I say. "Great. It's a date then. I'll pick you up at 7:30. He immediately turns and heads towards his house when I realize he never actually asked, and I never actually agreed. Chapter 2. It won't take long for me to tell you who I am. Well, you hear this voice right now. Well, that's pretty much all I am. The Avett brothers. Give me a kiss. The next afternoon, I'm picking out what to wear, but can't seem to locate any clean, weather-appropriate clothing. I don't own many winter shirts besides what I've already worn this week. I choose a purple, long-sleeve shirt and smell it, deciding it's clean enough. I spray some perfume, though, just in case it isn't. I brush my teeth, touch up my makeup, brush my teeth again, and let down my ponytail. I curl a few sections of my hair and pull some silver earrings out of my drawer when I hear a knock on the bathroom door. My mother enters with a handful of towels. She opens the cabinet next to the shower and places them inside. "Going somewhere?" she says. She sits down on the edge of the bathtub while I continue to get ready. "Yeah, somewhere." I try to hide my smile as I put in my earrings. Honestly, I'm not sure what we're doing. I really never even agreed to the date. She stands up and walks to the door, leaning up against the frame. She watches me in the mirror. She has aged so much in the short time since my dad's death. Her bright green eyes against her smooth porcelain skin used to be breathtaking. Now, her cheekbones stand out above the hollowed shadows in her cheeks. The dark circles under her eyes overpower their emerald hue. She looks tired and sad. "Well, you're 18 now. You've had enough of my dating advice for a lifetime," she says. "But I'll provide you with a quick recap just in case. Don't order anything with onion or garlic. Never leave your drink unattended. And always use protection." "Ugh, Mom." I roll my eyes. "You know I know the rules, and you know I don't have to worry about the last one. Please don't give Will a recap of your rules. Promise?" I make her promise. "So, tell me about Will. Does he work? Is he in college? What's his major? Is he a serial killer?" She says this with such sincerity. I walk the short distance from the bathroom to my bedroom and bend down to search through my shoes. She follows me and sits on the bed. "Honestly, Mom, I don't know anything about him. I didn't even know how old he was until he told you." "That's good," she says. "Good?" I glance back at her. How is not knowing anything about him good? I'm about to be alone with him for hours. He could be a serial killer. I grab my boots and walk over to the bed to slip them on. "It'll give you plenty to talk about. That's what first dates are for." "Good point," I say. Growing up, my mother did give great advice. She always knew what I wanted to hear, but would tell me what I needed to hear. My dad was her first boyfriend, so I've always wondered how she knows so much about dating, boys, and relationships. She's only been with one person, and it seems most knowledge would have come from life experiences. She's the exception, I guess. "Mom," I say as I slip on my boots, "I know you were only 18 when you met Dad. I mean, that's really young to meet the person you spend the rest of your life with. Do you ever regret it?" She doesn't answer immediately. Instead, she lies back on my bed and clasps her hands behind her head, pondering my question. "I've never regretted it." "Questioned it?" "Sure, but never regretted." "Is there a difference?" I ask. "Absolutely. Regret is counterproductive. It's looking back on a past that you can't change. Questioning things as they occur can prevent regret in the future. I questioned a lot about my relationship with your father. People make spontaneous decisions based on their hearts all the time. There's so much more to relationships than just love." "Is that why you always tell me to follow my head, not my heart?" My mother sits up on the bed and takes my hands in hers. "Lake, do you want some real advice that doesn't include a list of foods you should avoid?" Has she been holding out on me? "Of course," I reply. She's lost the authoritative parental edge to her voice, which makes me aware that this conversation is less mother-daughter and more woman-to-woman. She pulls her legs up Indian style on the bed and faces me. "There are 3 questions every woman should be able to answer yes to before she commits to a man. If you answer no to any of the 3 questions, run like hell." "It's just a date," I laugh. "I doubt we'll be doing any committing." "I know you're not, Lake. I'm serious. If you can't answer yes to these 3 questions, don't even waste your time on a relationship." When I open my mouth, I feel like I'm just reinforcing the fact that I'm her child. I don't interrupt her again. "Does he treat you with respect at all times?" That's the first question. The second question is, if he is the exact same person 20 years from now that he is today, would you still want to marry him? And finally, does he inspire you to want to be a better person? You find someone you can answer yes about to all 3, then you found a good man. I take a deep breath as I soak in even more sage advice from her. "Wow, those are some intense questions," I say. "Were you able to answer yes to all of them when you were with Dad?" "Absolutely," she says without hesitation. "Every second I was with him." A sadness enters her eyes as she finishes her sentence. She loved my dad. I immediately regret bringing it up. I put my arms around her and embrace her. It's been so long since I've hugged her. A twinge of guilt rises up inside me. She kisses my hair, then pulls away and smiles. I stand up and run my hands down my shirt, smoothing out the folds. Well, how do I look? Like a woman, she sighs. It's 7:30 sharp, so I go to the living room, grab the jacket Will insisted I borrow the day before, and head to the window. He's coming out of his house, so I walk outside and stand in my driveway. He looks up and notices me as he's opening his car door. "You ready?" he yells. "Yes." "Well, come on then." I don't move. I just stand there and fold my arms across my chest. "What are you doing?" He throws his hands up in defeat and laughs. "You said you would pick me up at 7:30. I'm waiting for you to pick me up." He grins and gets in the car. He backs straight out of his driveway and into mine, so that the passenger door is closest to me. He hops out of the car and runs around to open it. Before I get in, I give him the once-over. He's wearing loose-fitted jeans and a black long-sleeve shirt that outlines his arms. It's the defined arms that prompt me to return his jacket to him. "That reminds me," I say, handing him his jacket. "I bought this for you." He smiles when he takes it and slides his arm inside. "Wow, thanks," he says. "It even smells like me." He waits until I've buckled up before he shuts the door. As he's walking around to his side, I notice the car smells like cheese. Not old, stale cheese, but fresh cheese. Cheddar, maybe. My stomach growls. I'm curious where we're going to eat. When Will gets in, he reaches into the back seat and grabs a sack. "We don't have time to eat, so I made us grilled cheese." He hands me a sandwich and a bottle of soda. "Wow, this is a first," I say, staring at the items in my hands. "And where exactly are we going in such a hurry?" I twist open the lid. It's obviously not a restaurant. He unwraps his sandwich and takes a bite. "It's a surprise," he says with a mouthful of bread. He navigates the steering wheel with his free hand as he simultaneously drives and eats. "I know a lot more about you than you know about me, so tonight I want to show you what I'm all about." "Well, I'm intrigued," I say. I really am intrigued. We both finish our sandwiches, and I put the trash back in the bag and place it in the back seat. I try to think of something to say to break the silence, so I ask him about his family. "What are your parents like?" He takes a deep breath and slowly exhales, almost like I've asked the wrong thing. "I'm not big on small talk, Lake. We can figure all that out later. Let's make this drive interesting." He winks at me and relaxes further into his seat. Driving, not talking, keeping it interesting. I'm repeating what he said in my head and hope I'm misunderstanding his intent. He laughs when he sees the hesitation on my face, and it dawns on him that I've misinterpreted what he said. "Lake, no," he says. "I just meant let's talk about something besides what we're expected to talk about." I breathe a sigh of relief. I thought I had found his flaw. "Good. I know a game we can play," he says. "It's called Would You Rather. Have you played it before?" I shake my head. "No, but I know I would rather you go first." "Okay." He clears his throat and pauses for a few seconds. "Okay, would you rather spend the rest of your life with no arms, or would you rather spend the rest of your life with arms you couldn't control?" What the hell? I can honestly say this date is not going the way any of my previous dates have gone. It's pleasantly unexpected, though. "Well," I hesitate. "I guess I would rather spend the rest of my life with arms I couldn't control." "What? Seriously? But you wouldn't be controlling them," he says, flapping his arms around in the car. "They could be flailing around you and you'd be constantly punching yourself in the face. Or worse, you might grab a knife and stab yourself." I laugh. I didn't realize there were right and wrong answers. "You suck at this," he teases. "Your turn." "Okay, let me think." You have to have one ready, he says. Geez, Will, I barely heard of this game for the first time 30 seconds ago. Give me a second to think of one. He reaches over and squeezes my hand. I'm teasing. He repositions his hand underneath mine, and our fingers interlock. I like how easy the transition is, like we've been holding hands for years. So far, everything about this date has been easy. I like Will's sense of humor. I like that I find it so easy to laugh around him after having gone so many months without laughing. I like that we're holding hands. I really like that we're holding hands. Okay, I've got one, I say. Would you rather pee on yourself once a day at random, unknown times? Or would you rather have to pee on someone else? It depends on who I'd have to pee on. Can I pee on people I don't like? Or is it random people? Random people. Pee on myself, he says without hesitation. My turn now. Would you rather be 4 feet tall or 7 feet tall? 7 feet tall, I reply. Why? You aren't allowed to ask why, I say. Okay, let's see. Would you rather drink an entire gallon of bacon grease for breakfast every day? Or would you rather have to eat 5 pounds of popcorn for supper every night? 5 pounds of popcorn. I like the game we're playing. I like that he didn't worry about impressing me with dinner. I like that I have no idea where we're headed. I even like that he didn't compliment what I was wearing, which seems to be the standard opening line for dates. So far, I like everything about tonight. As far as I'm concerned, we could drive around for another 2 hours just playing Would You Rather, and it would be the most fun I've ever had on a date. But we don't. We eventually reach our destination, and I immediately tense up when I see the sign on the building. Club 9. Will, I don't dance. I'm hoping he'll be empathetic. Neither do I. We exit the vehicle and meet at the front of the car. I'm not sure who reaches out first, but once again, our fingers find each other in the dark, and he holds my hand and guides me towards the entrance. As we get closer, I notice a sign posted on the door. Closed for slam, Thursdays, 8 o'clock until whenever. Admission, free. Fee to slam, $3. Will opens the door without reading the sign. I start to inform him the club is closed, but he seems like he knows what he's doing. The silence is interrupted by the noise of a crowd as I follow him through the entryway and into the room. There is an empty stage to the right of us, and tables and chairs set up all over the dance floor. The place is packed. I see what looks like a group of younger kids, around age 14 or so, at a table toward the front. Will turns to the left and heads to an empty booth in the back of the room. It's quieter back here, he says. How old do you have to be to get into clubs here? I say, still observing the group of out-of-place children. Well, tonight it's not a club, he says as we scoot into the booth. It's a half-circle booth facing the stage, so I scoot all the way to the middle to get the best view. He moves in right beside me. It's slam night, he says. Every Thursday they shut the club down and people come here to compete in a slam. And what's a slam? I ask. It's poetry. He smiles at me. It's what I'm all about. Is he for real? A hot guy who makes me laugh and loves poetry? Someone pinch me. Or not. I'd rather not wake up. Poetry, huh? I say. Do people write their own or do they recite it from other authors? He leans back in the booth and looks up at the stage. I see the passion in his eyes when he talks about it. People get up there and pour their hearts out, just using their words and the movement of their bodies, he says. It's amazing. You aren't going to hear any Dickinson or Frost here. Is it like a competition? It's complicated, he says. It differs between every club. Normally during a slam, the judges are picked at random from the audience, and they assign points to each performance. The one with the most points at the end of the night wins. That's how they do it here anyway. So do you slam? Sometimes. Sometimes I judge. Sometimes I just watch. Are you performing tonight? Nah. Just an observer tonight. I don't really have anything ready. I'm disappointed. It would be amazing to see him perform on stage. I still have no idea what slam poetry is, but I'm really curious to see him do anything that requires a performance. Bummer, I say. It's quiet for a moment while we both observe the crowd in front of us. Will nudges me with his elbow, and I turn to look at him. You want something to drink? He says, Sure, I'll take some chocolate milk. He cocks an eyebrow and grins. Chocolate milk? Really? I nod. With ice. Okay, he says as he slides out of the booth. One chocolate milk on the rocks coming right up. While he's gone, the MC comes to the stage and attempts to pump up the crowd. No one is in the back of the room where we're seated, so I feel a little silly when I yell, Yeah! with the rest of the crowd. I sink further into my seat and decide to just be a spectator for the remainder of the night. The MC announces it's time to pick the judges, and the entire crowd roars, almost everyone wanting to be chosen. They pick 5 people at random and move them to the judging table. As Will walks toward our booth with our drinks, the MC announces it's time for the sack and chooses someone at random. What's the sack? I ask him. Sacrifice. It's what they use to prepare the judges. He slides back into the booth. Somehow, he slides even closer this time. Someone performs something that isn't part of the competition so the judges can calibrate their scoring. So they can call on anyone? What if they had called on me? I ask, suddenly nervous. He smiles at me. Well, I guess you should have had something ready. He takes a sip from his drink, then leans back against the booth, finding my hand in the dark. Our fingers don't interlock this time, though. Instead, he places my hand on his leg, and his fingertips start to trace the outline of my wrist. He gently traces each of my fingers, following the lines and curves of my entire hand. His fingertips feel like electric pulses penetrating my skin. Lake, he says quietly as he continues tracing up my wrist and back to my fingertips with a fluid motion. I don't know what it is about you, but I like you. His fingers slide between mine, and he takes my hand in his, turning his attention back to the stage. I inhale and reach for my chocolate milk with my free hand, downing the entire glass. The ice feels good against my lips. It cools me off. They call in a young woman who looks to be around 25. She announces she is performing a piece she wrote titled Blue Sweater. The lights are lowered as the spotlight is positioned on her. She raises the microphone and steps forward, staring down at the floor. A hush sweeps over the audience, and the only sound in the entire room is the sound of her breath, amplified through the speakers. She raises her hand to the microphone, still staring down to the floor. She begins to tap her finger against it in a repetitive motion, resonating the sound of a heartbeat. I realize I'm holding my own breath as she begins her piece. Bum bum, bum bum, bum bum. Do you hear that? Her voice lingering on the word hear. That's the sound of my heart beating. She taps the microphone again. Bum bum, bum bum, bum bum. Do you hear that? That's the sound of your heart beating. She begins to speak faster, much louder than before. It was the first day of October. I was wearing my blue sweater. You know the one I bought at Dillard's? The one with the double-knitted hem and holes in the ends of the sleeves? That I could poke my thumbs through when it was cold, but I didn't feel like wearing gloves? It was the same sweater you said made my eyes look like reflections of the stars on the ocean. You promised to love me forever that night. And boy, did you ever. It was the first day of December this time. I was wearing my blue sweater. You know the one I bought at Dillard's? The one with the double-knitted hem and holes in the ends of the sleeves that I could poke my thumbs through when it was cold, but I didn't feel like wearing gloves? It was the same sweater you said made my eyes look like reflections of the stars on the ocean. I told you I was 3 weeks late. You said it was fate. You promised to love me forever that night, and boy, did you ever. It was the first day of May. I was wearing my blue sweater, although this time the double-stitched hem was worn and the strength of each thread tested as they were pulled tight against my growing belly. You know the one, the same one I bought at Dillard's, the one with holes in the ends of the sleeves that I could poke my thumbs through when it was cold, but I didn't feel like wearing gloves. It was the same sweater you said made my eyes look like reflections of the stars on the ocean. The same sweater you ripped off of my body as you shoved me to the floor, calling me a whore, telling me you didn't love me anymore. Bum, 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 bum. Do you hear that? That's the sound of my heart beating. Bum, 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 bum. Do you hear that? That's the sound of your heart beating. There is a long silence as she clasps her hands to her stomach, tears streaming down her face. Do you hear that? Of course you don't. That's the silence of my womb, because you ripped off my sweater. The lights come back up, and the audience roars. I take a deep breath and wipe tears from my eyes. I'm mesmerized by her ability to hypnotize an entire audience with such powerfully portrayed words. Just words. I'm immediately addicted and want to hear more. Will puts his arm around my shoulders and leans back into the seat with me, bringing me back to reality. Well, he says. I accept his embrace and move my head to his shoulders as we both stare out over the crowd. He rests his chin on top of my head. That was unbelievable, I whisper. His hand touches the side of my face, and he brushes his lips against my forehead. I close my eyes and wonder how much more my emotions can be tested. 3 days ago, I was devastated, bitter, hopeless. Today, I woke up feeling happy for the first time in months. I feel vulnerable. I try to mask my emotions, but I feel like everyone knows what I'm thinking and feeling, and I don't like it. I don't like being an open book. I feel like I'm up on the stage, pouring my heart out to him, and it scares the hell out of me. We sit in the same embrace as several more people perform their pieces. The poetry is as vast and electrifying as the audience. I have never laughed and cried so much. The way these poets are able to lure you into a whole new world, viewing things from a vantage point you've never seen before, making you feel like you are the mother who lost her baby, or the boy who killed his father, or even the man who got high for the first time and ate 5 plates of bacon. I feel a connection with these poets and their stories. What's more, I feel a deeper connection to Will. I can't imagine that he's brave enough to get up on the stage and bare his soul like these people are doing. I have to see it. I have to see him do this. The MC makes one last appeal for performers. I turn towards him. Will, you can't bring me here and not perform. Please do one. Please, please, please. He leans his head back against the booth. You're killing me, Lake. Like I said, I don't really have anything new. Do something old then, I suggest. Or do all these people make you nervous? He tilts his head towards me and smiles. Not all of them. Just one of them. I suddenly have the urge to kiss him. I suppress the urge for now and continue to plead. I clasp my hands together under my chin. Don't make me beg, I say. You already are. He pauses for a few seconds, then removes his arm from around my shoulders and leans forward. All right, he says. He grins at me as he reaches into his pocket. But I'm warning you, you asked. He pulls his wallet out just as the MC announces the start of round 2. Will stands up, holding his $3 in the air. I'm in. The MC shields his eyes with his hand, squinting into the audience to see who spoke up. Ladies and gentlemen, it's one of our very own, Mr. Will Cooper. So nice of you to finally join us. He teases into the microphone. Will makes his way through the crowd and walks onto the stage and into the spotlight. What's the name of your piece tonight, Will? The MC asks. Death, Will replies, looking past the crowd and directly at me. The smile fades from his eyes and he begins his performance. Death, the only thing inevitable in life. People don't like to talk about death because it makes them sad. They don't want to imagine how life will go on without them. All the people they love will briefly grieve but continue to breathe. They don't want to imagine how life will go on without them. Their children will still grow, get married, get old. They don't want to imagine how life will continue to go on without them. Their material things will be sold, their medical files stamped closed, their name becoming a memory to everyone they know. They don't want to imagine how life will go on without them, so instead of accepting it head-on, they avoid the subject altogether, hoping and praying it will somehow pass them by, forget about them, moving on to the next one in line. No, they didn't want to imagine how life would continue to go on without them, but death didn't forget. Instead, they were met head-on by death, disguised as an 18-wheeler behind a cloud of fog. No, death didn't forget about them. If only they had been prepared, accepted the inevitable, laid out their plans, understood that it wasn't just their lives at hand. I may have legally been considered an adult at the age of 19, but I still felt very much all of just 19. Unprepared and overwhelmed to suddenly have the entire life of a 7-year-old in my realm. Death, the only thing inevitable in life. Will steps out of the spotlight and off of the stage before he even sees his scores. I find myself hoping he gets lost on his way back to our booth so that I have time to absorb this. I have no idea how to react. I had no idea that this was his life. That Calder was his whole life. I'm amazed by his performance, but devastated by his words. I wipe tears away with the back of my hand. I don't know if I'm crying for the loss of Will's parents, the responsibilities brought by that loss, or the simple fact that he spoke the truth. He spoke about a side of death and loss that never seems to be considered until it's too late, a side that I'm unfortunately all too familiar with. The Will I watched walk up to the stage is not the same Will I'm watching walk toward me. I'm conflicted. I'm confused. And most of all, I'm taken aback. He was beautiful. He notices me wiping tears from my eyes. I warned you, he says, sliding back into the booth. He reaches for his drink and takes a sip, stirring the ice cubes with a straw. I have no idea what to say to him. He put it all out there, right in front of me. My emotions take control over my actions. I reach forward and take his hand in mine, and he sets his drink back down on the table. He turns toward me and gives me a half smile, like he's waiting for me to say something. When I don't say anything, he pulls his hand up to my face and wipes away a tear, then traces the side of my cheek with the back of his hand. I don't understand the connection I feel with him. It all seems so fast. I put my hand on top of his and pull it to my mouth, then gently kiss the inside of his palm as we hold each other's stare. We suddenly become the only two people in the entire room. All the external noise fades into the distance. He brings his other hand to my cheek and slowly leans forward. I close my eyes and feel his breath draw closer as he pulls me toward him. His lips touch my lips, but barely. He slowly kisses my bottom lip, then my top lip. His lips are cold, still wet from his drink. I lean in further to return his kiss, but he pulls away when my mouth responds. I open my eyes and he's smiling at me, still holding my face in his hands. Patience, he whispers. He closes his eyes and leans in, kissing me softly on the cheek. I close my eyes and inhale, trying to calm the overwhelming impulse I have to wrap my arms around him and kiss him back. I don't know how he has so much self-control. He presses his forehead against mine and slides his hands down my arms. Our eyes lock when we open them. It's during this moment that I finally understand why my mother accepted her fate at the age of 18. Wow, I exhale. Yeah, he agrees. Wow. We hold each other's stare for a few more seconds until the audience starts to roar again. They are announcing the qualifiers for round 2 when Will grabs my hand and whispers, "Let's go." As I make my way out of the booth, my entire body feels like it's about to give out on me. I've never experienced anything like what just happened. Ever. We exit the booth and our hands remain locked as he navigates me through the ever-growing crowd and into the parking lot. I don't realize how warm I am until the cold Michigan air touches my skin. It feels exhilarating. Or I feel exhilarated. I can't tell which. All I know is that I wish the last 2 hours of my life could repeat for eternity. You don't want to stay? I ask him. Lake, you've been moving and unpacking for days. You need sleep. His mention of sleep induces an involuntary yawn from me. Sleep does sound good, I say. He opens my door, but before I get in, he wraps his arms around me and pulls me to him in a tight embrace. Several minutes pass while we just stand there, holding on to the moment. I could get used to this, which is a completely foreign feeling. I've always been so guarded. This new side of me that Will brings out is a side of me I didn't know I had. We eventually break up hard and get into the car. As we drive away from the parking lot, I lean my head against the window and watch the club minimize in the rearview mirror. Will? I whisper, without breaking my gaze from the building disappearing behind us. Thank you for this. He takes my hand into his and I eventually fall asleep, smiling. I wake up as he's opening my door and we're in my driveway. He reaches in and grabs my hand, helping me out of the car. I can't remember the last time I fell asleep in a moving vehicle. Will was right. I am tired. I rub my eyes and yawn again as he walks me to the front door. He wraps his arm around my waist and I raise mine around his shoulders. Our bodies are a perfect fit. A chill runs down my body as his breath warms my neck. I can't believe we met only 3 days ago. It seems like we've been doing this for years. Just think, I say. You'll be gone 3 whole days. That's the same length of time I've known you. He laughs and pulls me even closer. This will be the longest 3 days of my life, he says. If I know my mother at all, then we've got an audience. So I'm relieved his final kiss is nothing more than a quick peck on the cheek. He slowly walks backward, his fingers sliding out of mine, eventually letting go. My arm falls limp to my side as I watch him get into his car. He cranks the engine and rolls down his window. Lake, I've got a pretty long drive home, he says. How about one for the road? I laugh, then walk to the car and lean through his window, expecting another peck. Instead, he slips his hand behind my neck and gently pulls me toward him, our lips opening when they meet. Neither of us holds back this time. I reach through the window and run my fingers through the back of his hair as we continue kissing. It takes all I have not to swing open the car door and crawl into his lap. The door between us feels more like a barricade. We finally come to a stop. Our lips are still touching as we both hesitate to part. Damn, he whispers against my lips. It gets better every time. I'll see you in 3 days, I say. You be careful driving home tonight. I give him one final kiss and reluctantly pull away from the window. He backs out of the driveway and again straight into his own. I'm tempted to run after him and kiss him again to prove his theory. Instead, I avoid temptation and turn to head inside. Lake. I turn around, and he shuts his car door and jogs toward me. He smiles when he reaches me. I forgot to tell you something, he says, wrapping his arms around me again. You look beautiful tonight. He kisses me on top of my head, releases his hold, and turns back toward his house. Maybe I was wrong earlier about me liking the fact that he didn't compliment me. I was definitely wrong. When he gets to his front door, he turns around and smiles before he goes inside. Just as I had imagined, my mother is sitting on the sofa with a book, attempting to appear uninterested when I walk through the front door. "Well, how'd it go? Is he a serial killer?" she says. My smile is uncontrollable now. I walk to the sofa opposite her and throw myself on it like a rag doll and sigh. You were right, Mom. I love Michigan. Chapter 3. But I can tell by watching you that there's no chance of pushing through. The odds are so against us. You know, most young love, it ends like this. The Avett brothers. I would be sad. I'm more nervous than I anticipated when I wake up Monday morning. My mind has been so preoccupied with all things Will, I haven't had time to process my impending doom, or rather, my first day at a brand new school. Mom and I finally had a chance to go shopping for weather-appropriate clothing over the weekend. I throw on what I picked out the evening before and slide on my new snow boots. I leave my hair down for the day, but slide an extra band onto my wrist for when I want to pull it back, which I know I'll do. After I finish up in the bathroom, I move to the kitchen and grab my backpack and my class schedule off the counter. Mom began her new night shift at the hospital last night, so I agreed to take Kel to school. Back in Texas, Kel and I went to the same school. In fact, everyone in the vicinity of our town went to the same school. Here, there are so many schools, I have to print out a district map just to be sure I'm taking him to the right place. When we pull up to the elementary school, Kel immediately spots Calder and jumps out of the car without even saying goodbye. He makes life look so easy. Luckily, the elementary is only a few blocks from the high school. I'll have extra time to spare so that I can locate my first class. I pull into the parking lot of what I consider to be a massive high school and search for a spot. When I find one available, it's as far from the building as it could be, and there are dozens of students standing around their vehicles, chatting. I am hesitant to get out of my car, but realize when I do that no one even notices me. It's not like in the movies when the new girl steps out of her car onto the lawn of the new school, clutching her books, everyone stopping what they're doing to stare. It's not like that at all. I feel invisible, and I like it. I make it through first period. Math without being assigned homework, which is good. I plan on spending the entire evening with Will. When I went to leave this morning, there was a note on my Jeep from him. All it said was, "Can't wait to see you. I'll be back home by 4. 7 hours and 3 minutes to go. History isn't any harder. The teacher is giving notes on the Punic Wars, something we had just covered in my previous school. I find it hard to focus as I literally count down the minutes. The teacher is very monotonous and mundane. If I don't find something to be interesting, my mind tends to wander. It keeps wandering to Will. I am methodically taking notes, trying my best to focus, when someone behind me pokes my back. "Hey, let me see your schedule," the girl directs. I inconspicuously reach for my schedule and fold it up tightly in my left hand. I raise my hand behind me and quickly drop the schedule on her desk. "Oh, please," she says louder. "Mr. Hansen is half blind and can barely hear. Don't worry about him." I stifle a laugh and turn toward her while Mr. Hansen is facing the board. "I'm Layken." "Eddie," she says. I look at her questioningly and she rolls her eyes. "I know. It's a family name, but if you call me Eddie Spaghetti, I'll kick your ass." She threatens mildly. "I'll keep that in mind." "Cool. We have the same third period," she says, inspecting my schedule. "It's a bitch to find. Stick with me after class and I'll show you where it is." Eddie leans forward to write something down, and her slinky blonde hair swings forward with her. It falls just below her chin in an asymmetrical style. Her nails are each painted a completely different color, and she has a variety of about 15 bracelets on each of her wrists that rattle and clank every time she moves. She has a small, simple outline of a black heart tattooed on the inside of her left wrist. When the bell rings, I stand up and Eddie passes me back the schedule. She reaches into my jacket pocket and pulls out my phone and starts punching numbers. I look at the schedule she has returned to me, and it's now covered in websites and phone numbers in green ink. Eddie sees me looking and points to the first web address on the page. That's my Facebook page, but if you can't find me there, I'm also on Twitter. Don't ask me for my MySpace username because that shit's lame, she says, strangely serious. She scrolls down the remaining numbers jotted on my schedule with her finger. That's my cell phone number, that's my home phone number, and that's the number to Getty's Pizza. She says, Is that where you work? No, they just have great pizza. She moves past me and I start to follow her out the door when she turns and hands me back my phone. I just called myself, so I have your number now, too. Oh, and you need to go to the office before next period. Why? I thought you wanted me to follow you? I ask, feeling slightly overwhelmed by my new friend. They have you in B lunch. I'm in A lunch. Go switch yours to A lunch and meet me in third period. And she's gone. Just like that. The administration office is just 2 doors down. The secretary, Mrs. Alex, makes rolling her eyes a new form of art as she prints my new schedule just as the second bell for third period rings. Do you know where this English elective is located? I say before I leave. She gives me somewhat lengthy and confusing directions, assuming that I know where Hall A is and Hall D. I wait patiently until she's finished and walk out the door, more confused than before. I wander across 3 different hallways, entering 2 wrong classrooms and 1 janitor's closet. I round the corner when I finally see Hall D and feel some relief. I set my backpack down on the floor and place the schedule between my lips, then pull the rubber band off my wrist. It's not even 10 in the morning and I'm already pulling my hair up. It's that kind of day already. Lake? My heart nearly jumps out of my chest when I hear his voice. I turn around and see Will standing next to me with a confused look on his face. I pull the schedule out of my mouth and smile, then instinctively wrap my arms around him. Will! What are you doing here? He hugs me back, but only for a second before he wraps his hands around my wrists and removes my arms from around his neck. Lake, he says, shaking his head. What are you doing here? I sigh and thrust my schedule into his chest. I'm trying to find this stupid elective, but I'm lost. I whine. Help me. He takes another step back against the wall. Lake, no, he says, putting the schedule back into my hands without even looking at it. I watch him react for a moment, and he seems almost horrified to see me. He turns away and clasps his hands behind his head. I don't understand his reaction. I stand still, waiting for some sort of explanation, when it dawns on me. He's here to see his girlfriend. The girlfriend that he failed to mention. I snatch my backpack up and immediately start to walk away when he reaches out and pulls me to a stop. Where are you going? He demands. I roll my eyes and let out a short sigh. I get it, Will. I get it. I'll leave you alone before your girlfriend sees us. I'm trying to hold back tears at this point, so I step out of his grasp and turn away from him. Girlfriend? No, Lake, I don't think you get it. The faint sound of footsteps quickly becomes louder as they round the corner to Hall D. I turn to see another student barreling toward us. Oh man, I thought I was late, the student says when he spots us in the hallway. He comes to a stop in front of the classroom. You are late, Javier, Will replies, opening the door behind him, motioning for Javier to enter. Javi, I'll be there in a few minutes. Let the class know they have 5 minutes to review before the exam. Will closes the door behind him, and we're once again alone in the hallway. The air is all but gone from my lungs. I feel pressure building in my chest as this new realization sinks in. This can't be happening. This can't be possible. How is this possible? Will, I whisper, not able to get a full breath out. Please don't tell me. His face is red and he has a pained look in his eyes as he bites his lower lip. He leans his head back and looks up at the ceiling, rubbing his palms on his face while he paces the length of the hallway between the lockers and the classroom door. With each step he takes, I catch a glimpse of his faculty badge as it sways back and forth from his neck. He flattens his palms against the lockers, repeatedly tapping his forehead against the metal as I stand frozen, unable to speak. He slowly drops his hands and turns toward me. How did I not see this? You're still in high school? Chapter 4. I am sick of wanting, and it's evil how it's got me, and every day is worse than the one before. The Avett Brothers. Ill with want. Will leans with his back against the lockers. His legs are crossed at the feet, and his arms are folded across his chest as he stares at the floor. The events unfolding have caught me so off guard I can barely stand. I go to the wall opposite him and lean against it for support. Me? I reply. How did the fact that you're a teacher not come up? How are you a teacher? You're only 21. Layken, listen, he says, ignoring my questions. He didn't call me Lake. There has apparently been a huge misunderstanding between the two of us. He doesn't make eye contact with me as he speaks. We need to talk about this, but now is definitely not the right time. I agree. I say. I want to say more, but I can't. I'm afraid I'll cry. The door to Will's classroom opens, and Eddie emerges. I selfishly pray that she, too, is lost. This cannot be my elective. Layken, I was just coming to look for you, she says. I saved you a seat. She looks at Will, then back at me, and realizes she's interrupted a conversation. Oh, sorry, Mr. Cooper. I didn't know you were out here. It's fine, Eddie. I was just going over Layken's schedule with her. He says this as he walks toward the classroom and holds the door for both of us. I reluctantly follow Eddie through the door, around Will, and to the only empty seat in the room, directly in front of the teacher's desk. I don't know how I am expected to sit through an entire hour in this classroom. The walls won't stop dancing when I try to focus, so I close my eyes. I need water. Who's the hottie? Asks the boy I now know as Javier. Shut it, Javi. Will snaps as he walks towards his desk, picking up a stack of papers. Several students let out a small gasp at this reaction. I guess Will isn't his usual self right now either. Chill out, Mr. Cooper. I was paying her a compliment. She's hot. Look at her. Javi says this as he leans back in his chair, watching me. Javi, get out. Will says, pointing to the classroom door. Mr. Cooper, geez, what's with the temp? Like I said, get out. You will not disrespect women in my classroom. Javi grabs his books and snaps back. Fine, I'll go disrespect them in the hallway. After the door shuts behind him, the only sound in the room is the distant second hand ticking on the clock above the blackboard. I don't turn around, but I can feel most of the eyes in the classroom on me, waiting for some sort of reaction. It's not so easy to blend in now. Class, we have a new student. This is Layken Cohen, Will says, attempting to break the tension. Review is over. Put up your notes. You're not going to have her introduce herself? Eddie asks. We'll get to that another time. Will holds up a stack of papers. Tests. I'm relieved Will has spared me from having to get in front of the class and speak. It's the last thing I would be able to do right now. It feels like there is a ball of cotton in my throat as I unsuccessfully try to swallow. Lake. Will hesitates, then clears his throat, realizing his slip. Layken, if you have something else to work on, feel free. The class is completing a chapter test. I'd rather just take the test. I say. I have to focus on something. Will hands me a test, and in the time it takes to complete it, I do my best to focus entirely on the questions at hand, hoping I'll find momentary respite from my new reality. I finish fairly quickly, though, but keep erasing and rewriting answers just to avoid having to deal with the obvious. The fact that the boy I'm falling for is now my teacher. When the dismissal bell rings, I watch as the rest of the class files toward Will's desk, laying their papers face down in a pile. Eddie lays hers down and walks to my desk. Hey, did you get your lunch switched? Yeah, I did, I tell her. Sweet, I'll save you a seat, she says. She stops at Will's desk and he looks up at her. She removes a red tin from her purse and pulls out a small handful of mints and sets them on his desk. Altoids, she says. Will stares questioningly at the mints. I'm just making assumptions here, she whispers loud enough that I hear her, but I've heard Altoids work wonders on hangovers. She pushes the mints toward him. And again, just like that, she's gone. Will and I are the only ones left in the classroom at this point. I need to talk to him so bad. I have so many questions, but I know it's still not a good time. I grab my paper and walk over to his desk, placing it on top of the stack. Is my mood that obvious? He asks. He continues to stare at the mints on his desk. I grab 2 of the Altoids and walk out of the room without responding. As I navigate the halls, searching for my 4th period class, I see a bathroom and quickly duck inside. I decide to spend the remainder of 4th period and my entire lunch in the bathroom stall. I feel guilty knowing Eddie's waiting for me, but I can't face anyone right now. Instead, I spend the entire time reading and rereading the writing on the walls of the stall, hoping to somehow make it through the rest of the day without bursting into tears. My last 2 classes are a blur. Luckily, neither of those teachers seem interested in my about me either. I don't speak to anyone, and no one speaks to me. I have no idea if I was ever even assigned homework. My mind is consumed by this whole situation. I walk to my car as I search in my bag for my keys. I pull them out and fidget with the lock, but my hands are shaking so bad that I drop them. When I climb inside, I don't give myself time to reflect as I throw the car in reverse and head home. The only thing I want to think about right now is my bed. When I pull into my driveway, I kill the engine and pause. I don't want to face Kel or my mother yet, so I kick my seat back and shield my eyes with my arms and begin to cry. I replay everything over and over in my head. How did I spend an entire evening with him and not know he was a teacher? How can something as big as an occupation not come up in conversation? Or better yet, how did I do so much talking and fail to mention the fact that I was still in high school? I told him so much about myself. I feel like it's what I deserve for finally letting down my walls. I wipe at my eyes with my sleeve, trying hard to conceal my tears. I've been getting pretty good at it. Up until 6 months ago, I hardly had a reason to cry. My life back in Texas was simple. I had a routine, a great group of friends, a school I loved, and even a home I loved. I cried a lot in the weeks following my father's death, until I realized Kel and my mother wouldn't be able to move on until I did. I started making a conscious effort to be more involved in Kel's life. Our father was also his best friend at the time, and I feel Kel lost more than any of us. I got involved in youth baseball, his karate lessons, and even Cub Scouts. All the things my dad used to do with him. It kept both Kel and me preoccupied, and the grieving eventually started to subside. Until today. A tap on the passenger window brings me back to reality. I don't want to acknowledge it. I don't want to see anyone, let alone speak to anyone. I look over and see someone standing there. The only thing visible is his torso and faculty ID. I flip the visor down and wipe the mascara from my eyes. I divert my gaze out the driver's side window and press the automatic unlock button, focusing on the injured garden gnome, who is staring back at me with a smug little grin. Will slides into the passenger seat and shuts the door. He lays the seat back a few inches and sighs, but says nothing. I don't think either of us knows what to say at this point. I glance over at him, and his foot is resting on the dash. He's stiff against the seat with his arms folded across his chest. He's staring directly at the note he wrote this morning that's still sitting on my console. I guess he made it by 4 o'clock after all. What are you thinking? He asks. I pull my right leg up into the seat and hug it with my arms. I'm confused as hell, Will. I don't know what to think. He sighs and turns to look out the passenger window. I'm sorry, this is all my fault, he says. It's nobody's fault, I say, In order for there to be fault, there has to be some sort of conscious decision. You didn't know, Will. He sits up and turns to face me. The playful expression in his eyes that drew me to him is gone. That's just it, Lake. I should have known. I'm in an occupation that doesn't just require ethics inside the classroom. They apply to all aspects of my life. I wasn't aware because I wasn't doing my job. When you told me you were 18, I assumed you were in college. His obvious frustration seems entirely directed toward himself. I've only been 18 for 2 weeks, I reply. I don't know why I felt the need to clarify that. After I say it, I realize it sounds like I'm placing blame on him. He's already blaming himself. He doesn't need me to be angry at him, too. This was an outcome that neither of us could possibly have predicted. I student teach, he says in an attempt to explain. Sort of. Sort of? After my parents died, I doubled up on all my classes. I have enough credits to graduate a semester early. Since the school was so short-handed, they offered me a 1-year contract. I have 3 months left of student teaching. After that, I'm under contract through June of next year. I listen and take in everything he says. Really, though, all I hear is, we can't be together. Blah, blah, blah. We can't be together. He looks me in the eyes. Lake, I need this job. It's what I've been working toward for 3 years. We're broke. My parents left me with a mound of debt and now college tuition. I can't quit now. He breaks his gaze and leans back into the seat, running his hands through his hair. Will, I understand. I'd never ask you to jeopardize your career. It would be stupid if you threw that away for someone you've only known for a week. He keeps his focus out the passenger window. I'm not saying you would ask me that. I just want you to understand where I'm coming from. I do understand, I say. It's ridiculous to assume we even had anything worth risking. He glances at the note on my console again and quietly responds, We both know it's more than that. His words cause me to wince, because I know deep down he's right. Whatever was happening with us, it was more than just an infatuation. I can't possibly comprehend at this moment what it must be like to actually have a broken heart. If it hurts even 1% more than the pain I'm feeling now, I'll forego love. It's not worth it. I attempt to stop the tears from welling up again, but the effort is futile. He brings his leg off the dash and pulls me to him. I bury my face in his shirt, and he puts his arms around me and gently rubs my back. I'm so sorry, he says. I wish there was something I could do to change things. I have to do this right. For Calder. The physical grip he has on me seems less like a consoling hug and more like a goodbye. I'm not sure where we go from here or how we'll transition, he says. Transition? I suddenly start to panic at the thought of losing him. But what if you talk to the school? Tell them we didn't know. Ask them what our options are. I realize as the words are coming out of my mouth that I'm grasping at straws. There is no way in which a relationship between us would be feasible at this point. I can't, Lake. His voice is small. It won't work. It can't work. A door slams, and Kel and Calder come bounding down the driveway. We immediately pull apart and reposition our seats. I rest my head against the headrest and close my eyes, attempting to conjure up a loophole in our situation. There has to be one. When the boys have crossed the street and are safely inside Will's house, he turns to me. Layken, he says nervously, there's one more thing I need to talk to you about. Oh God, what else? What else could be relevant at this moment? I need you to go to administration tomorrow. I want you to withdraw from my class. I don't think we should be around each other anymore. I feel the blood rushing from my face. My hands start to sweat, and the car is quickly becoming too small for the two of us. He really means it. Anything we had up to this point is over. He's going to shut me out of his life entirely. Why? I make no effort to mask the hurt in my voice. He clears his throat. What we have isn't appropriate. We have to separate ourselves. My hurt quickly succumbs to the anger building up inside of me. Not appropriate? Separate ourselves? You live across the street from me, Will. He opens the door and gets out of the car. I do the same and slam my door. We're both mature enough to know what's appropriate. You're the only person I know here. Please don't ask me to act like I don't even know you, I plead. Come on, Lake. You aren't being fair. He matches his tone to mine, and I know I've hit a nerve. I can't do this. We can't just be friends. It's the only choice we have. I can't help but feel like we're going through a horrible breakup, and we aren't even in a relationship. I'm angry at myself. I can't tell if I'm really just upset about what has happened today or about my entire life this year. The one thing I know for sure is that the only time I've been happy lately has been with Will. To hear him tell me that we can't even be friends hurts. It scares me that I'll go back to who I've been for the past 6 months, someone I'm not proud of. I open the door to the car and grab my purse and keys. So, you're saying it's either all or nothing, right? And since it obviously can't be all, I slam the car door again and head toward the house. You'll be rid of me by third period tomorrow, I say as I purposely kick the gnome over with my boot. I walk into the house and throw the keys toward the bar in the kitchen with such force that they glide completely across the surface and hit the floor. I step on the heel of my boot with my toe and kick it off in the entry when my mother comes in. What was that all about? She asks. Were you just yelling? Nothing, I say. That's what it's about. Absolutely nothing. I pick up my boots and walk to my room, slamming the door behind me. I lock my bedroom door and head straight to the hamper of clothes. I pick it up and dump the contents out onto the floor, searching through them until I find what I'm looking for. My hand slides into the pocket of my jeans, and I remove the purple hair clip. I walk over to the bed, pull back the covers, and climb in. My fist tightens around the clip as I pull my hands to my face and cry myself to sleep. When I wake up, it's midnight. I lie there a moment, hoping I'll come to the conclusion that this was all a bad dream. But the clarity never comes. When I pull back the covers, my hair clip falls from my hands and lands on the floor. This small piece of plastic, so old that it's probably covered in lead-ridden paint. I think about how I felt the day my father gave it to me, and how all the sadness and fears were eliminated as soon as he put it in my hair. I lean forward and retrieve it from the floor, pressing down on the center so that it snaps open. I move a section of my bangs to the opposite side and secure it in place. I wait for the magic to take effect. But sure enough, everything still hurts. I pull the clip from my hair and throw it across the room and climb back into bed. Chapter 5. I keep telling myself that it'll be fine. You can't make everyone happy all of the time. The Avett Brothers. Paranoia in B-flat major. My pulse is pounding against my temples as I climb out of bed. I'm in dire need of my own box of Altoids. My entire body is dragging from hours of alternating between crying and inadequate sleep. I make a quick pot of coffee and sit down at the bar and drink it in silence, dreading the day that lies ahead of me. Kel eventually comes in, wearing his pajamas and Darth Vader house shoes. Morning, he says groggily as he grabs a cup out of the dish strainer. He walks over to the coffee pot and proceeds to pour coffee into the world's greatest dad cup. What do you think you're doing? I ask him. Hey, you aren't the only one who had a bad night. Kel climbs onto a stool on the opposite side of the bar. 4th grade is rough. I had 2 hours of homework, he says as he brings the cup to his mouth. I take the coffee out of his hands and pour the contents into my own, then toss the mug into the trash can. I walk to the refrigerator, grab a juice, and place it in front of him. Kel rolls his eyes and pokes through the hole at the top of the pouch, bringing it to his mouth. Did you see they delivered the rest of our stuff yesterday? Mom's van finally got here. We had to unpack the whole thing by ourselves, you know, he says, obviously trying to guilt me. Go get dressed, I say. We're leaving in half an hour. It begins to snow again after I drop Kel off at school. I hope Will is right about it being gone soon. I hate the snow. I hate Michigan. When I arrive at the school, I go straight to the administration office. Mrs. Alex is powering on her computer when she notices me and shakes her head. Let me guess, you want sea lunch now? I should have brought her Kel's coffee. Actually, I need a list of third period electives. I want to switch classes. She tucks her chin in and looks up at me through the top of her glasses. Aren't you in the poetry elective with Mr. Cooper? That's one of the most popular electives. That's the one, I confirm. I'd like to withdraw. Well, you have until the end of the week before I submit your final schedule, she says as she grabs a sheet and hands it to me. Which class do you prefer? I look over the short list of available electives. Botany, Russian literature. My options are limited. I'll take Russian literature for 200, Alex. She rolls her eyes and turns to enter the information into the computer. I guess she's heard that one before. She hands me yet another new schedule and a yellow form. Have Mr. Cooper sign this and bring it back to me before third period, and you'll be all set. Great, I mumble as I exit the office. When I successfully navigate my way to Will's classroom, I'm relieved to find the door locked and the lights turned out. Seeing him again was not on my to-do list for the day, so I decide to take matters into my own hands. I reach into my backpack and retrieve a pen, press the yellow form up against the door to the classroom, and begin to forge Will's name. That's not a good idea. I spin around and Will is standing behind me with a black satchel slung across his shoulder, key in hand. My stomach flips when I look at him. He's wearing khaki slacks and a black shirt tucked in at the waist. The color of his tie matches his green eyes perfectly, making them hard to look away from. He looks so professional. I step back as he moves past me and inserts his key into the door. He enters the room and flips the light switch on, then places his satchel on the desk. I'm still standing in the doorway when he motions for me to come in. I smack the form face up on his desk. Well, you weren't here yet, so I thought I'd spare you the trouble, I say, defending my actions with a defensive tone. Will picks up the form and grimaces. Russian lit. That's what you chose? It was either that or botany, I reply evenly. Will pulls his chair out and sits. He grabs the pen and lays the paper flat, pressing the tip of the pen on the line. He hesitates, though, and lays the pen down on the paper without signing his name. I thought a lot last night about what you said yesterday, he says. It's not fair of me to ask you to transfer just because it makes me uneasy. We live 100 yards apart. Our brothers are becoming best friends. If anything, this class will be good for us. Help us figure out how to navigate when we're around each other. We're going to have to get used to this one way or another, besides, he says as he pulls a paper from his satchel and shoves it forward on the desk. You'll obviously breeze through. I look at the test I had completed the day before, and it's marked with a 100. I don't mind switching, I say, even though I really do mind. I understand where you're coming from. Thanks, but it can only get easier from here, right? I look up at him and nod. Right, I lie. He's completely wrong. Being around him every day is definitely not going to make it easier. I could move back to Texas today, and I'd still feel too close to him. However, my conscience still can't come up with a good enough argument to convince me to switch classes. He crumples up my transfer form and chucks it toward the trash can. It misses by about 2 feet. I pick it up as I walk to the door and toss it in. I guess I'll see you third period, Mr. Cooper. I see him frown out of my peripheral vision as I exit. I feel somewhat relieved. I hated how we left things yesterday. Even though I would do whatever it took to rectify the awkward situation we're in, he still somehow finds a way to put me at ease. What happened to you yesterday? Eddie says as we enter second period. Get lost again? Yeah, sorry about that. Issues with admin. You should have texted. She teases in a sarcastic tone. I was worried about you. Oh, I'm sorry, dear. Dear, you trying to steal my girl? A guy I have yet to meet puts his arm around Eddie and kisses her on the cheek. Layken, this is Gavin, she says. Gavin, this is Layken, your competition. Gavin has blonde hair, almost identical to Eddie's, except in length. They could pass for brother and sister, although his eyes are chestnut while hers are blue. He is wearing a black hoodie and jeans, and when he moves his arm from Eddie's shoulder to shake my hand, I notice a tattoo of a heart on his wrist. The same as Eddie's. I've heard a lot about you, he says, extending his hand out to mine. I eye him curiously, wondering what he could have possibly heard. Not really, he admits, smiling. I haven't heard anything at all about you. That's usually just what people say when they're introduced. He turns toward Eddie and gives her another peck on the cheek. I'll see you next period, babe. I've got to get to class. I envy them. Mr. Hansen enters the room and announces there's a chapter test. I don't object when he hands me a test, and we spend the rest of the class period in silence. As I follow Eddie through the crowd of students, my stomach is in knots. I'm already regretting not having switched to Russian literature. How either of us thought this would help make things easier, I don't know. We arrive in Will's class, and he's holding the door open, greeting the students as they arrive. Mr. Cooper, you look a little better today. Need a mint? Eddie says as she walks to her seat. Javi walks in and glares at Will as he slides into his seat. All right, everyone, Will says, shutting the door behind him. Good efforts on your test yesterday. Elements of poetry is a pretty mundane section, so I know you're all glad to have it out of the way. I think you'll find the performance section more interesting, which is what we'll focus on the rest of this semester. Performance poetry resembles traditional poetry, but with an added element, the actual performance. Performance? Javi asks, disdained. You mean like in that movie about the dead poets, where they had to read crap in front of the whole class? Not exactly, Will says. That's just poetry. He means slamming, Gavin adds, like they do down at Club 9 on Thursdays. What's slamming? A girl inquires from the back of the room. Gavin turns toward her. It's awesome. Eddie and I go sometimes. You have to see it to really get it, he adds. That's one form of it, Will says. Has anyone else ever been to a slam? A couple of other students raise their hands. I don't. Mr. Cooper, show them. Do one of yours, Gavin says. I can see the hesitation in Will's eyes. I know from experience he doesn't like being put on the spot. I'll tell you what. We'll make a deal. If I do one of my pieces, everyone has to agree to go to at least one slam this semester at Club 9. No one objects. I'd like to object, but that would require raising my hand and speaking, so I don't object. No objections? All right, then. I'll do a short one I wrote. Remember, slam poetry is about the poetry and the performance. Will stands in front of the room and faces the students. He shakes his arms out and stretches his neck left and right in an attempt to relax himself. When he clears his throat, it's not the kind of throat clearing people do when they're nervous. It's the kind they do right before they yell. Expectations, evaluations, internal evasions fly out of me like puddles of blood from a wound. A fetus from the womb of a corpse in a tomb, withered and strewn like red sheets on the bed of an immaculate room. I can't breathe. I can't win. From this indelible position I'm in. It controls the only piece of my unfortunate soul left to fend for itself in this hollowed-out hole that I dug from within like a prisoner in an unlocked cell sitting in the deepest pits of hell. Unencumbered he's not in his sweltering spot. He could open the door 'cause he don't need a damn key. But then again, why would he? Circumlocution is his revolution. The silence in the room is deafening. No one speaks. No one moves. No one claps. We are in awe. I am in awe. How does he expect me to transition if he keeps doing things like this? There you go, he says matter-of-factly as he walks back to his seat. The rest of the class period is spent talking about slam poetry. I try hard to follow along as he goes into further explanation, but the entire time I'm simply focused on the fact that he hasn't made eye contact with me. Not even once. I claim my seat next to Eddie at lunch. I notice a guy who sits a couple of rows behind me in Will's class walking toward us. He's balancing 2 trays with his left arm and his backpack and a bag of chips in his right. He positions himself in the seat across from me and proceeds to combine the food onto one tray. When that task is complete, he pulls a 2-liter of Coke out of his backpack and places it in front of him. He unscrews the lid and drinks directly from it. As he is chugging the soda, he looks at me, then places it back down on the table, wiping his mouth. "You gonna drink that chocolate milk, new girl?" I nod. "That's why I got it." "What about that roll? You gonna eat that roll?" "Got the roll for a reason, too." He shrugs and reaches across to Gavin's tray and takes his roll just as Gavin turns around and swipes at his hand, a moment too late. "Dude, Nick, there's no way you're gaining 10 pounds by Friday. Give it up," Gavin says. 9. Nick corrects him with a mouthful of bread. Eddie takes her roll and throws it across the table. Nick catches it midair and gives her a wink. "Your girl has faith in me," Nick says to Gavin. "He lifts weights." Eddie is directing her comment to me. "He's got to be 9 pounds heavier by Friday to compete in his weight class. And it's not looking good." With that, I grab my roll and toss it on Nick's tray. He winks at me and dips it in a mound of butter. I'm thankful to Eddie for accepting me into her group of friends so easily. Not that I had a choice. It was done pretty forcibly. In Texas, there were 21 people in my entire senior class. I had friends, but with such a limited pool to choose from, I never really considered any of them to be my best friend. I mostly hung out with my friend Karis, but I haven't even spoken to her since the move. From what I've seen of Eddie so far, she's intriguing enough that I can't help but hope we become closer. "So, how long have you and Gavin been dating?" I ask her. "Since sophomore year. I hit him with my car." She looks at him and smiles. "It was love at first swipe." "What about you?" she asks. "You got a boyfriend?" I wish I could tell her about Will. I want to tell her about how when we met, I immediately felt something I had never felt about a guy before. I want to tell her about our first date and how the entire night seemed like we had known each other for years. I want to tell her about his poetry, our kiss, everything. Most of all, though, I want to tell her about seeing him in the hallway, when we realized our fate was not our own to decide. But I know I can't. I can't tell anyone. So I don't. I simply reply, "No." "Really? No boyfriend? Well, we can fix that," she says. "No need. It's not broken." Eddie laughs and turns to Gavin, discussing possible suitors for her new lonely friend. The end of the school week finally arrives, and I have never felt more relieved to pull out of a parking lot in my entire life. Even though Will lives across the street from me, I feel less vulnerable when I'm inside my house than I do 2 feet from him in a classroom. He successfully achieved an entire week of absolutely no eye contact. Not saying I didn't do my best to catch even a glimpse in my direction. I practically stared him down. During the drive home, I make a detour to better formulate my plan to spend the entire weekend indoors. It's called Movies and Junk Food. Mom is sitting at the bar in the kitchen when I walk through the front door. I can see by the stern look on her face that she isn't particularly happy to see me. I walk into the kitchen and lay the movies and bags of junk food on the counter in front of her. "I'm spending the weekend with Johnny Depp," I say, attempting to appear oblivious to her demeanor. She doesn't smile. "I took Calder home from school today," she says. "He mentioned something very interesting." "Oh, yeah? You sound sick, Mom. Do you have a cold?" I try to sound nonchalant, but I can tell by the tone in her voice that what she's really trying to say is, "I found out something from your little brother's friend that I should have found out from you." "Anything you want to tell me?" she asks, staring daggers through me. I sip from a bottle of water and take a seat at the bar. I had planned on talking to her about everything tonight, but it looks like it's going to happen sooner rather than later. "Mom, I was going to talk to you about it, I swear." "He's a teacher at your school, Lake." She starts coughing and grabs at a Kleenex, then gets up from the bar. After she regains her composure, She lowers her voice in an attempt to avoid attracting the attention of the 9-year-olds, who are somewhere within our vicinity. Don't you think that's something you should have mentioned before I allowed you out of the house with him? I didn't know. He didn't know, I say in an overly defensive tone. She cocks her head to the side and rolls her eyes as though I've insulted her. What are you doing, Lake? Don't you realize he's raising his little brother? This can ruin his... Both of our eyes dart to the front door when we hear Will's car pull into his driveway. I quickly head to the front door in an attempt to block it so she'll let me explain. She beats me to it, so I follow her outside, pleading. Mom, please, just let me explain everything. Please. She's walking up Will's driveway when he notices us bombarding him. He smiles when he first notices my mother, but his smile fades when he sees I'm right behind her. He has surmised that this is not a friendly visit. Julia, please, he says. Can we go inside to talk about this? She doesn't respond. She just marches toward his front door and lets herself in. Will looks at me questioningly. Your brother mentioned you were a teacher. I haven't had a chance to explain anything to her, I say. He sighs, and we reluctantly make our way inside. It's the first time I've been inside his home since I found out about the death of his parents. Nothing has changed, yet at the same time, everything has changed. That first day when I was at his bar, I assumed that everything in the house belonged to his parents. That Will's situation was not unlike my own. Now, when I take in my surroundings, it sheds a different light on him. A light of responsibility, maturity. My mother is sitting stiffly on the sofa. Will walks quietly across the room and sits on the edge of the couch across from her. He leans forward and clasps his hands in front of him, his elbows resting on his knees. I'll explain everything. He says this with a serious, respectful tone to his voice. I know you will, she replies evenly. Basically, I made a lot of assumptions. I thought she was older. She seemed older. Once she told me she was 18, I guess I assumed she was in college. It's only September. Most students aren't 18 when they start their senior year. Most of them. She's only been 18 for 2 weeks. Yeah, I realize that now, he says, shooting a look in my direction. She wasn't attending school the first week you guys moved in, so I guess I just assumed. Somehow the topic never came up while we were together. My mother starts to cough again. Will and I wait, but the coughing intensifies and she stands and takes a few deep breaths. I would think she was having a panic attack if I didn't already know she was coming down with something. Will goes to the kitchen and comes back with a glass of water. She takes a sip and turns toward the living room window that faces the front yard. Calder and Kel are outside now. I can hear them laughing. My mother walks to the front door and opens it. Kel, Calder, don't lie in the street. She closes the door and turns toward us. Tell me, when did the topic come up? She asks, looking at both of us now. I can't answer her. Somehow in the presence of the two of them, I feel small. 2 adults hashing it out in front of the children. That's what this feels like. We didn't find out until she showed up for my class, Will replies. My mother looks at me, and her jaw gapes open. You're in his class? She looks at Will and repeats what she said. She's in your class? God, it sounds really bad coming from her mouth. She stands up and paces the length of the living room as both Will and I allow her time to process. You're telling me that both of you deny having any knowledge of this prior to the first day of school? We both nod in agreement. Well, what the hell happens now? She asks. She has both of her hands on her hips. Will and I are silent, hoping she can magically come up with the solution that we've both been searching for all week. Well, Will replies, Lake and I are doing our best to work through this a day at a time. She glares at him accusingly. Lake? You call her Lake? Will looks down at the floor and clears his throat, unable to meet her stare. My mother sighs and takes a seat next to Will on the sofa. Both of you need to accept the severity of this situation. I know my daughter, and my daughter likes you, Will, a lot. If you share even a fraction of those feelings, you will do whatever you can to distance yourself from her, That includes ditching the nicknames. This will jeopardize your career and her reputation. She stands up and walks to the front door, holding it open for me to follow her out. She isn't allowing us the opportunity for any private time. Cal and Calder brush past us and run toward Calder's bedroom. Mom watches as they disappear down the hallway. Cal and Calder don't need to be affected by this, she says, bringing her attention back to Will. I suggest we work something out now so that the contact between you and Lake can be minimized. Absolutely. I completely agree, he says. I work nights and sleep in the mornings. If you want to take them to school, Lake and I will pick them up after school. Where they go from there can be up to them. They seem to do pretty well going back and forth. That sounds good, thank you. He's a good kid, Will. Really, Julia, it's all fine with me. I haven't seen Calder this happy in a... Will's voice trails off, and he doesn't finish his sentence. Julia, he asks, will you be talking to the school about this? I mean, I completely understand if that's what you need to do. I would just like to be prepared. She looks at him, then at me, and holds her stare when she speaks. There's nothing currently going on that I would need to inform them about, is there? Not at all, I swear, I quickly reply. I want Will to look at me so he can see the apology in my eyes, but he doesn't. As soon as he shuts his front door behind us, I can't hold my tongue any longer. Why would you do that? I yell. You didn't even give me the opportunity to explain. I dart across the street and don't look back. I run into the house and into the solitude of my bedroom, where I will remain until she's left for work. Layken, do we have any packets of Kool-Aid? Cal is standing in the entryway, covered in slush. It's not the oddest thing he's ever asked me for, so I don't question him as I grab a package of grape out of the kitchen cabinet and take it to him. Not purple, we need red, he says. I grab the purple package from his hands and return with a red one. Thanks. I close the door behind him and grab a towel and lay it down on the tile of the entryway. It's not even 9 a.m, and already Cal and Calder have been outside in the snow for over 2 hours. I take a seat at the bar and finish my cup of coffee, staring at the pile of junk food that I'm no longer excited about eating. My mother got home around 7:30 this morning and climbed into bed, where she'll stay until around 2 o'clock. I'm still angry with her and don't feel like confronting the situation at all today. So it looks like I have about 5 more hours before I'll lock myself into my bedroom again. I grab a movie off the bar and, despite my lack of appetite, a bag of chocolate. If there is any man who can take my mind off of Will, it's definitely Johnny Depp. Halfway through my movie, Kel comes bounding in the house, still covered in snow and slush as he grabs my hand and starts to pull me outside. Kel, stop, I'm not going outside. I snap. Please, just for a minute, you have to see the snowman we made. Fine, let me get some shoes on at least. As soon as I pull the second boot on, Kel grabs my hand again and pulls me out the door. I continue to allow Kel to pull me along as I shield my eyes. It's taking them a moment to adjust to the sun's reflection on the snow. It's right over here, I hear Calder saying, but not to me. I look up to see Calder handling his brother in the same way Kel is handling me. We are both led to the rear of the Jeep, where they position us inches apart, directly in front of a casualty. I now know the purpose behind the demand for red Kool-Aid. In front of us, lying flat on the ground beneath the rear of my Jeep, is a dead snowman. His eyes are small pieces of twig, shaped into a grim expression. His arms are 2 thin branches lying on his side, and one of them broken in half under my rear tire. His head and neck are sprinkled with a trail of red Kool-Aid that's led to a pool of bright red snow about a foot down from the snowman. He was in a terrible accident, Kel says seriously, before he and Calder break out into a fit of giggles. Will and I look at one another, and for the first time in a week, he smiles at me. Wow, I need my camera, he says. I'll grab mine, I say. I smile back at him and head inside. So this is what it's going to be like from now on? Conversing under false pretenses in front of our brothers? Avoiding each other in public? I hate the transition. When I return with the camera, the boys are still admiring the murder scene, so I snap a couple of pictures. "Kel, let's kill a snowman with Will's car now," Calder says before they dart across the street. The tension is thick as Will and I stare excessively at the snowman in front of us, not knowing what else to look at. He eventually glances toward his house at our brothers. "They're lucky to have each other, you know," he says quietly. I analyze this sentence and wonder if it has a deeper meaning, or if he was just making an observation. "Yeah, they are," I agree. We both stand there watching them gather more snow. Will takes a deep breath and stretches his arms out above his head. "Well, I better get back inside," he says. He turns away. "Will, wait." He swings back around and puts his hands in his pockets, but doesn't say anything. "I'm sorry about yesterday. About my mom," I say as I stare at the ground between us. I can't look him in the eye for 2 reasons. 1, the snow is still blinding me. 2, it hurts when I look at him. "It's fine, Layken." And we're back to the official first name. He stares at the ground where the blood has tinted the snow, and he kicks at it with his shoe. "She's just doing her job as a mom, you know." He pauses and lowers his voice even more. "Don't be so mad at her. You're lucky to have her." He spins and walks back to his house. Guilt overcomes me as I think of what it's like for them to just have each other. And here I sit complaining about the only parent left among the 4 of us. I feel ashamed for bringing it up. I feel more ashamed of having been mad at my mother for what she did. It was my fault for not talking to her about it sooner. Will is right, as usual. I am lucky to have her. The shower in my mother's bedroom is running after lunch, so I heat up some leftovers and make her a glass of tea. I place them at her usual seat at the bar and wait for her. When she finally emerges from the hallway and sees the food, she gives me a slight smile and takes her seat. "Is this a peace offering, or did you poison my food?" she asks as she unfolds a napkin into her lap. "I guess you'll have to eat it first to find out." She eyes me cautiously and takes a bite of her food. She chews for a minute and takes another bite after she fails to keel over. "I'm sorry, Mom. I should have talked to you about it sooner. I was just really upset." She looks at me with pity in her eyes, so I turn away from her and busy my hands with the dishes. "Lake, I know how much you like him. I do. I like him too. But like I said yesterday, this can't happen. You have to promise me you won't do anything stupid." "I swear, Mom." He's made it clear he wants nothing to do with me, so you don't have anything to worry about. "I hope not," she says as she continues to eat. I finish up the dishes and return to the living room to continue my affair with Johnny. Chapter 6. Your heart says not again. What kind of mess have you got me in? But when the feeling's there, it can lift you up and take you anywhere. The Avett Brothers. Living of Love. The next few weeks fly by as my homework gets more intense, along with the isolation in Will's classroom. We haven't spoken since the day the snowman was murdered. We haven't had eye contact since then either. He avoids me like the plague. I haven't been adjusting very well to Michigan. Maybe everything that happened with Will ended up making the move even harder. All I ever feel like doing is sleeping. I guess because it doesn't hurt as bad when you're asleep. Eddie keeps bringing up possible fillers for the obvious hole in my boyfriend department, but I've rejected them all. She has finally resorted to switching places in Will's class with Nick in the hopes that something will bloom there. It won't. "Hey, Layken." Nick smiles as he sits in his new spot nearest me. "Got another one for you. Wanna hear it?" In the past week alone, I've had to endure at least 3 Chuck Norris jokes a day from Nick. He incorrectly assumes that since I'm from Texas, I must be obsessed with Walker, Texas Ranger. Sure. I don't try to deny him this privilege anymore. It doesn't work. Chuck Norris got a Gmail account today. It's gmail@chucknorris.com. It takes me a second to process. I'm normally quick with jokes, but my mind has been sluggish lately, and for good reason. Funny. I reply flatly in order to appease him. Chuck Norris counted to infinity. Twice. As much as I didn't feel like laughing, I did. Nick did annoy me quite a bit, but his ignorance was endearing. When Will walks into the classroom, his eyes dart to Nick. Although he still doesn't look at me, I like to imagine a twinge of jealousy building up inside of him. I've been making it a point recently to become more attentive toward Nick once Will comes into the room. I hate this new desire that has overcome me, the desire to make Will jealous. I know I need to stop before Nick starts to get the wrong idea, but I can't. I feel like this is the only aspect of this entire situation that I have any control over. Get out your notebooks, we're making poetry today, Will says as he takes a seat at his desk. Half the class groans. I hear Eddie clapping. Can we have partners? Nick asks. He starts inching his desk toward mine. Will glares at him. No. Nick shrugs and scoots his desk back into place. Each of you needs to write a short poem, which you will perform in front of the class tomorrow. I start taking notes on the assignment, not willing to watch him as he speaks. Remaining in his class was a very bad idea. I can't focus on anything he's saying. I'm constantly wondering what's going on inside his head, whether he's thinking about us, what he does inside his house at night. Even at home, he's been the only thing I can think about. I find myself stealing glances across the street any chance I get. Honestly, if I had switched classes, it probably wouldn't have made a difference. I would just rush to get home first so I could watch from the window when he pulls up to the house. This game I'm playing with myself is so exhausting. I wish I could find a way to break the hold he has on me. He seems to have done a pretty good job of moving on. You just need to start out with about 10 sentences for tomorrow's presentation. We can expand over the next couple of weeks, giving you something to prepare for the slam, Will says. And don't think I've forgotten. So far, no one in here has shown up at the slam. We made a deal. The entire class starts to protest. That wasn't the deal. You said we just had to observe. Now we have to perform? Says Gavin. No. Well, technically not. Everyone in here is required to attend one slam. You aren't required to perform. I just want you to observe. However, there's a chance you could be chosen to be the sacrifice, so it wouldn't hurt to have something prepared. Several students ask what the sacrifice is in unison. Will explains the term and how it can be anyone chosen at random. Therefore, he wants everyone to have a piece ready before the night they are to attend, just in case. What if we want to perform? Eddie asks. I'll tell you what. We'll make one more deal. Whoever willingly slam will be exempt from the final. Sweet, I'm in, Eddie says. What if we don't go? Javi asks. Then you're missing out on something amazing. And you get an F for participation, he replies. Javi rolls his eyes and groans at Will's response. So what kinds of things can we write about? Eddie asks. Will moves to the front of the desk and sits, only inches from me. There are no rules. You can write about anything. You can write about love, food, your hobby, something significant that happened in your life. You can write about how much you hate your poetry teacher. Write about anything, as long as it's something you're passionate about. If the audience doesn't feel your passion, they won't feel you. And that's never fun, believe me. He says this as though he speaks from experience. What about sex? Can we write about that? Javi asks. It's obvious he's trying to push Will's buttons. Will remains cool. Anything, as long as it doesn't get you in hot water with your parents. What if they don't let us go? I mean, it is a club. A student asks from the back of the room. I understand if they have hesitations. If there are any parents that don't feel comfortable, I'll talk to them about it. I also don't want transportation to be an issue. This club is somewhat of a drive, so if it is an issue, I'll take a school vehicle. Whatever the obstacle, we'll work through it. I'm very passionate about slam poetry, and don't feel like I'll be doing you justice as your teacher if I don't allow you the opportunity to experience this in person. I'll answer questions throughout the week regarding the semester requirement, but for now, let's get back to today's assignment. You have the entire class period to complete the poem. We'll start presenting them tomorrow. Get to it. I open my notebook and lay it flat on my desk. I stare at it, not having the first clue as what to write about. The only thing that's been on my mind lately is Will, and there's no way I'm doing a poem about him. By the end of the class period, the only thing that's written on my paper is my name. I glance up to Will, who is seated at his desk, biting the corner of his bottom lip. His eyes are focused on my desk, down on the poem that I've yet to write. He glances up and sees me watching him. It's the first eye contact we've had in 3 weeks. Surprisingly, he doesn't immediately look away. If he had any idea how this lip-biting quirk affects me, he'd stop. The intensity in his eyes causes me to flush, and the room suddenly becomes warm. His stare is unwavering until the class dismissal bell rings. He stands and walks to the door and holds it open for the students exiting. I immediately put away my notebook and throw my bag over my shoulder. I don't make eye contact when I leave the classroom, but I can feel him watching me. Just when I think he's forgotten about me, he goes and does something like this. The entire rest of the day, I'm extremely quiet as I attempt to analyze his actions. I eventually come up with just one conclusion. He is just as confused as I am. I'm relieved to feel the warm sun beating down on my face as I walk toward my Jeep. The weather was insanely cold going into October. The predictions are that the next 2 weeks will be a nice respite from the snow before winter begins. I insert the key into the ignition and turn it. Nothing happens. Great, my Jeep is shot. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I pop the hood on the Jeep and take a look. There's a bunch of wires and metal. That's about all I can comprehend from a mechanical standpoint. I do know what the battery looks like, so I grab a crowbar from the trunk and tap it against the battery. After another failed attempt at getting the ignition to turn on, I resort to pounding a little harder until I'm pretty much bludgeoning the battery out of sheer frustration. That's not a good idea. Will walks up beside me, satchel across his chest, looking very much like a teacher and less like Will. You've made it clear that you don't think a lot of what I do is a very good idea, I say as I return my focus back under the hood. What's wrong, it won't crank? He bends forward under the hood and starts to mess with wires. I don't understand what he's doing. One minute he tells me he doesn't want to speak to me in public. The next minute, he's staring me down in class. And now he's under my hood, trying to help me. I'm not a fan of inconsistency. What are you doing, Will? He rises out from under the hood and cocks his head at me. What does it look like I'm doing? I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with your Jeep. He walks around to the driver's side and attempts to turn the ignition. I follow him to the door. I mean, why are you doing this? You've made it pretty clear you don't want me to speak to you. Layken, you're a student stranded in the parking lot. I'm not going to get in my car and just drive away. I know his reference to me as a student isn't meant as an insult, but it sure feels like one. He realizes his poor choice of words and sighs as he gets out of the car and looks back under the hood. Look, that's not how I meant it, he says, fidgeting with more wires. I lean under the hood next to him in an attempt to look natural as I continue my point. It's just been really hard, Will. It was so easy for you to accept this and move past it. It hasn't been that easy for me. It's all I think about. Will grips the edge of the hood with his hands and turns his head toward me. You think this is easy for me? He whispers. Well, that's how you make it seem. Lake, nothing about this has been easy. It's a daily struggle for me to come to work, knowing this very job is what's keeping us apart. He turns away from the car and leans against it. If it weren't for Calder, I would have quit the first day I saw you in the hallway. I could have taken the year off, waited until you graduated to go back. He turns toward me, his voice lower than before. Believe me, I've run every possible scenario through my mind. How do you think it makes me feel to know that I'm the reason you're hurting? That I'm the reason you're so sad? The sincerity in his voice is surprising. I had no idea. I'm sorry, I just thought... Will cuts me off mid-sentence and turns back toward the car. Your battery is fine. Looks like it might be your alternator. Car won't start? Nick asks as he walks up beside us, explaining the reason behind Will's sudden guarded behavior. No, Mr. Cooper thinks I need a new alternator. That sucks, Nick says as he glances under the hood. I'll give you a ride home if you need one. I start to decline when Will interrupts. That would be great, Nick, Will says as he closes the hood of the Jeep. I shoot Will a glance, and he ignores my silent protest. Will walks away and leaves me with Nick, and no other option for a ride home. I'm parked over here, Nick says, heading to his car. Let me grab my stuff first. I reach for my bag, and my hand goes up to find the ignition empty. Will must have accidentally taken my keys. I leave the door unlocked just in case he doesn't have them. I don't want to add a locksmith charge on top of our already mounting debt. Wow. Nice car, I say when we reach Nick's vehicle. It's a small black sports car. Not sure what kind, but there isn't a speck of dirt on it. It's not mine, he says as we climb inside. It's my dad's. He lets me drive it when he's off work. Still, it's nice. Do you mind if we swing by Chapman Elementary? I'm supposed to pick up my little brother. No problem, he says, turning left out of the parking lot. So, new girl, you missed Texas yet? Although it's been a month, he still calls me new girl. Yep, I reply shortly. He attempts to make more small talk, but I treat his questions as if they were rhetorical, even though they aren't. I can't stop thinking about the things Will said to me before Nick interrupted us. Nick finally grasps the idea that I'm not in a chatty mood, so he turns on the radio. We pull up to Kel's school and I get out of the car so Kel can spot me, since I'm not in my Jeep. When Kel notices me, he comes running up to me, followed by Calder. Hey, where's your Jeep? Won't start. Hop in. Nick is giving us a ride home. Oh, well, Calder's supposed to go with us today. I open the back door as the two climb in the small back seat. They immediately start oohing and awing. The remainder of the short drive consists of Transformer comparisons in Nick's car. When we arrive at the house, Kel and Calder jump out of the car and run inside. I thank Nick and follow the boys toward the house when I hear Nick open his door. Layken, wait, Nick calls after me. Ugh, almost in the clear. I turn to see him standing in my driveway, looking nervous. Later this week, Eddie and Gavin and I are going to Getty's. You want to come? I definitely should have laid off on the obvious flirtations with Nick. I feel guilty, knowing good and well I've sent him the wrong signals. I don't know. I'd have to run it by my mom. I'll let you know tomorrow, okay? I see the hope fill in his eyes and wish I had gone ahead and turned him down. I don't want to give him any more false hope than I already have. Yeah. Tomorrow. See ya, Nick says. When I walk in the house, Kel and Calder are both at the bar with their homework out. Calder, do you live with us now or what? He looks at me with his big green Will-looking eyes. I can go home if you want me to. No, I was just kidding. I like you being here. It keeps this little creeper away from me. I squeeze Kel's shoulders and then walk into the kitchen and grab a drink. So is that Nick guy your boyfriend? I thought my brother was going to be your boyfriend. Calder catches me off guard with his observation, causing juice to spew from my mouth. No, neither of them is my boyfriend. Your brother and I are just friends, Calder. But Layken, Kel gives Calder a mischievous grin. I saw you kissing him that night y'all came home. In the driveway. I was watching from my bedroom window. My heart jumps to my throat. I walk over to them and place my hands firmly on the bar in front of them. Kel, don't you ever repeat what you just said. Do you hear me? His eyes get big, and he and Calder both lean back in their chairs as I lean forward across the bar. I'm serious. You did not see what you thought you saw. Will can get in a lot of trouble if you repeat what you said. I mean it. They both nod as I back away and turn toward my room. I pull my notebook out of my bag and plop down on the bed next to it to start on my homework, but I can't. The thought of anything getting out about Will and me distracts me. As much as I hate the fact that we can't be together, I hate the thought of him getting fired even more. He needs this job. Will was only 1 year older than I am now when his parents died, and he essentially became a parent himself. The more I think about it, the guiltier I feel for being so hard on him and the decision he's made. The pain I'm feeling as a result of us not being together pales in comparison to what Will must be going through. I feel less like Will's peer every day and more like his student. I've decided to work on the poem I've yet to start, but after half an hour I'm still staring at a blank page when my mother walks in. "Where's your Jeep?" "Oh, I forgot to tell you. It won't crank. Alternator or something. It's parked at school." "How can you forget to mention that?" she says, obviously frustrated. "I'm sorry. You were sleeping when I got home. I know you've been sick this week, so I didn't want to wake you up." She sighs and sits on my bed. "I don't know when I'll be able to get it fixed. I work the next few days. Do you mind just keeping it at school for a couple days until I can work it out?" "I'll ask tomorrow. I doubt they would even notice it's there." "Okay. Well, I've got to get to work." She stands up to leave. "Wait, your shift doesn't start for a few more hours." "I need to run errands," she quickly replies. She shuts the door, leaving me to question the validity of her response. I'm drying my hair after my shower when I think I hear the doorbell. I turn the dryer off and listen for a moment, and it eventually rings again. "Kel, get that door!" I yell as I pull on my sweats. I pile my still wet hair into a band and double it up on top of my head as I throw on a tank top. The doorbell rings again. I make my way to the front door and check the peephole. Will is standing outside with his arms crossed, staring at the ground. My heart skips a beat at the sight of him, and I turn to check my reflection in the entryway mirror. Sure enough, I look like I just got out of the shower. At least I'm not wearing Kel's house shoes. Ugh, why do I even care? I open the door and motion for him to come inside. He steps in far enough for me to shut the door behind him, but doesn't come any further inside. I just need Calder. Bath time. His arms are still crossed, and his speech is curt. I take this as a sign that I'm not getting any more confessions out of him right now. So I tell him to give me a sec as I go fetch Calder. I check Kel's room, my mother's room, and eventually my room when I run out of rooms to check. They aren't here, Will, I say as I walk back into the living room. Well, they have to be. They aren't at my house. He makes his way down the hallway and checks the rooms as he calls for them. I open the patio door, flick on the outdoor lights, and make a quick scan of the small backyard. They aren't out back, I say when we meet back in the living room. I'll check my house again, he says. Will makes his way across the street and I follow behind him. It's dark outside, and the temperature has dropped since earlier in the day. I become increasingly concerned as we make our way to Will's house. I know Kel and Calder wouldn't be outside this time of night. If they aren't in one of the houses, I don't know where they could be. Will makes a quick run of his house. I don't feel comfortable walking through it, since I've never really been further than the hallway. So I stand in the doorway and wait. They aren't here, he says, unable to hide the uncertainty in his voice. My hands go to my mouth as I gasp, fully realizing the seriousness of the situation. Will can see the fear in my eyes, and he puts his arms around me. We'll find them. They're just off playing somewhere. His reassurance is brief as he lets go and heads back out the front door. Check the backyard. I'll meet you out front, he says. We're both calling the boys' names when the panic rises up in my chest. It reminds me of the time I was babysitting Kel when he was 4, and I thought I had lost him. I searched the entire house for 20 minutes before finally breaking down and calling my mother. She immediately called the police, who arrived within minutes. They were still searching when she finally made it home. The panic in her eyes when she walked through the door cut through me, and we both started to cry. After searching for over 15 minutes, an officer found Kel passed out on the folded towels in the bathroom cabinet. Apparently, he had been hiding from me when he fell asleep. I'm hoping to find the same sense of relief when I look through Will's backyard, but they aren't here. I make my way around the side of the house and see Will standing in the driveway, staring inside his car. When he sees me running toward him, his finger goes up to his mouth, instructing me to be quiet. I peer into the back seat, where Kel and Calder are both crouched on the floorboard, their fingers and hands clamped together in the shape of guns. They're both passed out. I breathe a sigh of relief. They would make horrible guards, he whispers. Yeah, they sure would. We both stand there, staring at our little brothers. Will's arm goes around me, and he gives my shoulders a quick squeeze. His hug doesn't linger at all, though, so I know it's nothing more than a gesture expressing relief that our brothers are safe. Hey, before you wake them up, I've got something of yours inside. He walks toward his house, so I follow him inside and into the kitchen. My heart is still pounding against my chest, although I can't distinguish if it's the aftermath of the search for our brothers or if it's just being in Will's presence. He pulls something out of his satchel and hands it to me. Your keys, he says, dropping them into my hand. Oh, thanks, I say, somewhat disappointed. I don't know what I expected him to have, but I was fantasizing that maybe it was his resignation letter. It's running fine now. You should be able to drive it home tomorrow. He makes his way to his couch and sits. What? You fixed it? I say. Well, I didn't fix it. I know a guy who was able to put an alternator on it this afternoon. His reference in the parking lot comes back to mind. Somehow I doubt he would have had an alternator put on any other student's vehicle. Will, you didn't have to do that, I say as I sit down beside him on the couch. Thanks, though. I'll pay you back. Don't worry about it. You guys have helped me a lot with Calder lately. It's the least I can do. And yet again, I'm at a loss for what to say next. It feels like the first day I was standing in his kitchen, contemplating my next move after he helped me with my bandage. I know I should get up and leave, but I like being here next to him. Even if I am finding myself in his debt again, I somehow find the confidence to speak again. So, can we finish our conversation from earlier? I say. He adjusts himself on the couch and props his feet on the coffee table in front of us. That depends, he says. Did you come up with a solution? Well, no, I reply, just as a possible solution comes to mind. I lean my head against the back of the couch and meekly suggest my idea. Suppose these feelings we have just got more complex. I pause for a moment. I'm not sure how he's going to take this new suggestion of mine, so I tread lightly. I wouldn't be opposed to the idea of getting a GED. That's ridiculous, he says, eyeing me sharply. Don't even think like that. There's no way you're quitting school, Lake. I'm Lake again. It was just an idea, I say. Well, it was a dumb one. We both think silently, neither of us coming up with any other solutions. My head is still resting against the back of the couch as I watch him. His hands are clasped behind his head, and he's staring up at the ceiling. His jaw is clenched tight, and he's absent-mindedly popping his knuckles. He's no longer wearing the clothes he wears as a teacher. Instead, he has a plain white fitted t-shirt on and gray jogging pants that are almost identical to the ones I'm wearing. For the first time tonight, I notice his hair is wet. I haven't been this close to him in weeks. I was beginning to forget what he smells like. I inhale and take in the scent of his aftershave. It smells like the air in Texas, right before it starts to rain. There's a small dab of shaving cream right below his left ear. My hand instinctively moves up his neck, and I wipe it away. He flinches and turns toward me, so I defensively hold up my finger, as if to prove my reason for touching him. He pulls my hand toward him and rubs my finger across his shirt, wiping off the excess shaving cream. Our hands come to rest on his chest, and we continue to look at each other in silence. My palm is flat against his heart, and I can feel it rapidly beating against my hand. I know this exchange between us is wrong, but it feels incredibly right. He allows my hand to remain on his chest as it moves up and down to the rhythm of his breath. The look in his eyes is the exact look he had when he was watching me in class today. But this time my physical response is more intense, and I struggle to control the powerful urge to lean in and kiss him. I've wanted to talk to him like this for over a month now. I still had so much to say before he started pretending I didn't exist. I'm afraid that as soon as I walk out of his house tonight, the isolation will return. So I decide to tell him what I've wanted to say to him for weeks. "Will," I whisper, "I'll wait for you until I graduate." He exhales and closes his eyes, stroking his thumb across the back of my hand. "That's a long wait, Lake. A lot can happen in a year." His pulse increases against my palm. I don't know what comes over me, but I lean closer and turn his face toward mine. I just need him to look at me. He doesn't meet my gaze. Instead, his eyes focus on his hand as he slowly moves it up my arm. All the same sensations that flowed over me the first night we kissed come flooding back. I missed his touch so much. He moves his hand to my shoulder and slides his fingers underneath the strap of my shirt, slowly tracing along the edges of it. His movements are slow and methodical as he pulls his legs off the table in front of him and turns his body toward me. His expression seems full of conflict, but he slowly leans in and presses his lips against my shoulder. I place my hands on the back of his neck and inhale. His breath becomes heavier as his lips slowly move across my shoulder and onto my neck. The room starts to spin, so I close my eyes. His lips make their way to my jaw and closer to my mouth. When I feel him pull away, I open my eyes and he's watching me. There's a slight moment of hesitation in his eyes just before his lips close over mine. In the past, his kisses have been very delicate and smooth. There's a different hunger behind him now. He slides his hands under my shirt and grasps at my waist. I return his kisses with the same feverish passion. I run my hands through his hair and pull him to me as I lie back on the couch. As soon as he begins to ease his body on top of mine, his lips break away and he sits back up. "We've got to stop," he says. "We can't do this." He squeezes his eyes shut and rests his head against the couch. I sit back up and ignore his protest, sliding my hands up his neck and through his hair. I press my lips to his and pull myself onto his lap. His hands wrap around my waist again, and he pulls me into him, returning my kiss with even more intensity than before. He's right. They do get better every time. My hands find the bottom edge of his shirt, and I slide it up. Our lips separate for a brief moment when his shirt passes between us. I place my hands on his chest and run them over the contours of his muscles as we continue to kiss. He grips my arms and pushes me down onto the couch. I wait for him to find his way back to my mouth, but instead, he pushes away from me and stands up. "Layken, get up," he demands. He grabs my hand and pulls me up from the couch. I stand up, still caught up in the moment and unable to catch my breath. This can't happen. He's attempting to catch his breath, too. "I'm your teacher now. Everything has changed. We can't do this." His timing sucks. My knees are weak, so I sit back down on the couch for support. "Will, I won't say anything, I swear. I don't want him to regret what just happened between us." For a moment, it felt like we were back where we belonged. Now, seconds later, I'm confused again. "I'm sorry, Layken, but it's not right," he says, pacing the floor. "This isn't good for either of us. This isn't good for you." "You don't know what's good for me," I snap. I'm getting defensive again. He stops pacing and turns toward me. "You won't wait for me. I won't let you give up what should be the best year of your life. I had to grow up way too fast. I'm not taking that away from you, too. It wouldn't be fair. I don't want you to wait for me, Layken." The shift in his demeanor and the way my entire first name is flowing from his mouth is causing the oxygen to deplete from the room. I'm dizzy. "I won't be giving anything up," I reply weakly. I would have screamed if I could muster enough energy. He grabs his shirt and pulls it over his head as he moves further away from me. He walks to the opposite side of the living room and around the back of the couch. He grips the back of it and lets his head fall between his shoulders, avoiding eye contact again. My life is nothing but responsibilities. I'm raising a child, for Christ's sake. I wouldn't be able to put your needs first. Hell, I wouldn't even be able to put them second. He slowly raises his head and brings his gaze back to mine. You deserve better than third. I go to him and kneel on the couch in front of him, placing my hands on top of his. Your responsibilities should come before me, which is why I want to wait for you, Will. You're a good person. This thing about you that you think is your flaw, it's the reason I'm falling in love with you. My last few words trickle out as though I've lost what little control over myself I had left. I don't regret saying it, though. He pulls his hands out from under mine and places them firmly on either side of my face. He looks me directly in the eyes. You are not falling in love with me. He says this as if it's a command. You cannot fall in love with me. His eyes are hard and he clenches his jaw again. I feel the tears begin to well in my eyes as he releases me and walks toward the front door. What happened tonight? He's pointing to the couch as he speaks. That can't happen again. That won't happen again. He says this as though he's trying to convince more than just me. After he walks outside, he slams the door behind him, and I am left alone in his living room. My hands clutch at my stomach. My nausea intensifies. I'm afraid if I don't regain my composure soon, I won't be able to stand long enough to make it out of the house. I inhale through my nose and exhale from my mouth, then count backward from 10. It's a coping technique I learned from my father when I was younger. I used to have what my parents referred to as emotional overloads. My dad would wrap his arms around me and squeeze me as tight as he could as we counted down. Sometimes I would fake the tantrums just so he would have to squeeze me. What I wouldn't give for my dad's embrace right now. The front door opens and Will re-enters, carrying a sleeping Calder in his arms. Kel woke up. He's walking home now. You should go too, he says quietly. I feel completely embarrassed. Embarrassed by what just happened between us, and the fact that he's making me feel desperate, weaker than him. I snatch my keys off the coffee table and turn toward the door, stopping in front of him. You're an asshole, I say. I turn and leave, slamming the door behind me. As soon as I get to my bedroom, I collapse onto the bed and cry. Although it's negative, I finally have inspiration for my poem. I grab a pen and start writing as I wipe smudged tears off the paper. Chapter 7. You can't be like me, but be happy that you can't. I see pain, but I don't feel it. I am like the old Tin Man. The Avett Brothers. Tin Man. According to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, there are 5 stages of grief a person passes through after the death of a loved one. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. I took a psychology class during the last semester of my junior year when we lived in Texas. We were discussing stage 4 when the principal walked into the room, pale as a ghost. Layken, can I see you in the hallway, please? Principal Bass was a pleasant man. Plump in the belly, plump in the hands, plump in places you didn't know could be plump. It was an unusual cold spring day in Texas, but you wouldn't know it from the rings of sweat underneath his arms. He was the type of principal who hung out in his office rather than the halls. He never went looking for trouble, just waited for it to come to him. So why was he here? I had a sinking feeling deep in the pit of my stomach as I stood up and walked as slowly as I could to the classroom door. He wouldn't make eye contact with me. I remember I looked right at him, and his eyes darted to the floor. He felt sorry for me. But why? When I walked into the hallway, my mother was standing there, mascara streaked down her cheeks. The look in her eyes told me why she was there. Why she was there, and my father wasn't. I shook my head, refusing to believe what I knew to be true. No, I cried repeatedly. She threw her arms around me and started to collapse to the floor. Rather than hold her up, I simply melted with her. That day, I experienced my first stage of grief in the hallway floor of my high school. Denial. Gavin is preparing to perform his poetry. He's standing in front of the class, his paper shaking between his fingers as he clears his throat and prepares to read from it. I wonder, as I ignore Gavin's presence and focus on Will, Do the 5 stages of grief only apply to the death of a loved one? Could it not also apply to the death of an aspect of your life? If it does, then I'm definitely smack dab in the center of stage 2, anger. What's it called, Gavin? Will asks. He's sitting at his desk, writing notes into his pad as students perform. It pisses me off. The way he's being so attentive, focused on everything except me. His ability to make me feel like this huge invisible void pisses me off. The way he pauses to chew on the tip of his pen pisses me off. Just last night, those same lips that are wrapped around the tip of his ugly red pen were making their way up my neck. I pushed the thought of his kiss out of my mind as quickly as it crept in. I don't know how long it will take, but I'm determined to break from this hold he has on me. I didn't really give it a title. Gavin responds. He's standing at the front of the classroom, second to last person to perform. I guess you can call it pre-proposal? Pre-proposal. Go ahead, then. Will states in a teacherish voice, which also pisses me off. Ahem. Gavin clears his throat. His hands start trembling even more as he begins to read. 1,051,200 minutes. That's approximately how many minutes I've loved you. It's how many minutes I've thought about you. How many minutes I've worried about you. How many minutes I've thanked God for you. How many minutes I've thanked every deity in the universe for you. 1,051,200 minutes. 1,051,200 times. It's how many times you've made me smile. How many times you've made me dream. How many times you've made me believe. How many times you've made me discover. How many times you've made me adore. How many times you've made me cherish my life. Gavin walks toward the back of the room where Eddie is sitting. He bends down on one knee in front of her as he reads the last line of his poem. And exactly 1,051,200 minutes from now, I'm going to propose to you and ask that you share all the rest of the minutes of your life with me. Eddie is beaming as she leans down and hugs him. The classroom is divided as the boys groan and the girls swoon. I simply squirm in my seat, anticipating the last poet of the day, me. Thanks, Gavin. You can take your seat. Good job. Will doesn't look up from his notes when he calls me to read my poem. His voice is soft, full of trepidation when he says my name. Layken, it's your turn. I'm ready. I feel good about my piece. It's short, but to the point. I already have it memorized, so I leave the poem on my desk and walk to the front of the classroom. I have a question. My heart races when I realize this is the first time I've spoken out loud to Will in his classroom since I entered it a month ago. He hesitates, as though he can't decide if he should acknowledge that I even have a question. He gives me a slight nod. Is there a time minimum? I say. I'm not sure what he thought I was about to ask, but he looks relieved that this was my question. No. It's fine as long as you get your point across. Remember, there are no rules. His voice cracks slightly when he replies. I can see on his face that what happened between us last night is fresh on his mind. All the better. Good. Okay, then. I stammer. My poem is called Mean. I face the front of the classroom and proudly recite my poem by heart. According to the thesaurus, and according to me, there are over 30 different meanings and substitutions for the word mean. I quickly yell the following words. The entire class flinches, including Will. Jackass, jerk, cruel, dickhead, unkind, harsh, wicked, hateful, heartless, vicious, virulent, unrelenting, tyrannical, malevolent, atrocious, bastard, barbarous, bitter, brutal, callous, degenerate, brutish, depraved, evil, fierce, hard, implacable, rancorous, pernicious, inhumane, monstrous, merciless, inexorable. And my personal favorite, asshole. I glance at Will as I return to my seat, and his face is red, his teeth clenched. Eddie is the first to clap, followed by the rest of the girls in the class. I fold my arms across my chest and focus my eyes solely on my desk. Man, Javi says, who pissed you off? The bell rings and the students begin to file out. Will never utters a word. I begin to pack my things into my bag when Eddie runs up to me. Have you talked to your mom yet? She asks. My mom? About what? I have no clue what she's referring to. The date? Nick asked you out yesterday? You said you'd have to ask your mom? Oh, that, I respond. That was yesterday? It seems like a lifetime ago. I shoot a quick glance in Will's direction and see that he's watching me, waiting for my response to Eddie. His expression is stone cold. I wish at this moment he were easier to read. I assume his internal expression is jealousy, so I go with it. Yeah, sure. Tell Nick I'd love to. I lie as I keep my eyes locked on Will. He grabs his pen and paper and opens one of the desk drawers and drops them in, slamming it shut. The action startles Eddie and she jumps, spinning around to look at him. He's aware of the attention he brought upon himself, so he stands up and acts oblivious to us as he erases chalk off the board. Eddie turns back toward me. Great. Oh, and we decided on Thursday, so after Getty's we can go to the slam. We've only got a few weeks. Might as well get it out of the way. You want us to pick you up? Sure. Eddie claps excitedly and bounces out of the room. Will continues to erase away nothing as I start toward the exit. Layken, he says with a hardness to his voice. I pause at the door but don't turn toward him. Your mom works Thursday nights. I always get a sitter for Thursday since I go to the slams. Just send Kel over before you leave. You know, before your date. I don't respond. I simply walk out. Lunch is awkward. Eddie has already informed Nick that I've agreed to go out with them, so everyone is extremely chatty about our new plans. Everyone except me. Other than the occasional nod and mutters of agreement, I don't speak. I have no appetite. So Nick eats the majority of my food. I stir the rice pudding around on my tray with my spoon, dribbling in traces of ketchup here and there. It reminds me of the remnants of the murdered snowman in my driveway. For days, every time I backed out, my tire would glide over his ice-hard body. I wonder if that's how quiet my Jeep would be if I were to run over Will. Just accidentally back up over him, then put my car in drive and continue on. Layken, are you just going to ignore him? Eddie says. I look up to see Will standing behind Nick, staring down at the mess I've made of my tray. What? I say to Eddie. Mr. Cooper needs to see you, she says, nudging her head in Will's direction. I bet you're in trouble for saying asshole, Nick says. I put my hand against my throat, afraid it's about to explode. What is he doing? Why is he asking me to go with him in front of everyone? Has he lost his mind? I slide my chair back and leave my tray on the table as I eye him cautiously. He walks out of the cafeteria toward his classroom, and I follow him. It's a long walk. A long, awkward, tension-filled, quiet walk. We need to talk, he says as he shuts his door behind us. Now. I don't know if he's being Will right now. I don't understand the angle he's coming at me from. I don't know whether to obey him or punch him. I don't walk very far into his room. I fold my arms across my chest and attempt to look annoyed. Then talk, I say. Damn it, Lake. I'm not your enemy. Stop hating me. He's being Will. I rush toward him and throw my hands up in the air in frustration. Stop hating you? Make up your freaking mind, Will. Last night you told me to stop loving you. Now you're telling me to stop hating you. You tell me you don't want me to wait for you. Yet you act like an immature little boy when I agree to go out with Nick. You want me to act like I don't know you. But then you pull me out of the lunchroom in front of everyone. We've got this whole facade between us, like we're different people all the time, and it's exhausting. I never know when you're Will or Mr. Cooper, and I really don't know when I'm supposed to be Layken or Lake. I'm tired of playing his head games. I'm so tired. I throw myself into the seat I occupied during his class. He's hard to read as he stands motionless, expressionless. He slowly walks around me and takes a seat in the desk behind me. I continue facing forward when he leans forward over the desk, close enough to whisper. My body tenses and my chest tightens when he speaks. I didn't think it would be this hard, he says. I don't want to give him the gratification of seeing the tears that are making their way down my cheeks. I'm sorry I said that to you earlier, about Thursday, he says. I was being sincere for the most part. I know you'll need someone to watch Kel, and I did make the slam a required assignment. But I shouldn't have reacted like that. That's why I asked you to come here. I just needed to apologize. It won't happen again, I swear. The door to the classroom swings open, and Will hops up out of the seat. His sudden movement startles Eddie, and she eyes us curiously from the doorway. She's holding the backpack that I left in the cafeteria. I can't conceal the tears that are still flowing from my eyes, so I turn away from her. There's nothing Will or I could do at this point to mask the tension between us. Eddie holds her palms up and gently lays my backpack on the desk closest to the door. She heads back out of the room and whispers, "My bad. Continue." She closes the door behind her. Will runs his hands through his hair and paces the floor. "That's just great," he mutters. "Let it go, Will," I say as I stand up and walk to my backpack. If she asks me about it, I'll just tell her you were upset because I said asshole, and jackass, and dickhead, and bastard. I get your point. My hand is on the doorknob when he calls my name again, so I pause. I also want to say I'm sorry. About last night, he says. I turn toward him when I speak. Are you sorry it happened? Or sorry about the way you stopped it? He cocks his head and shrugs his shoulders as if he doesn't understand my question. All of it. It never should have happened. Bastard, I finish. The engine of my Jeep purrs its familiar sound when I crank it, and that pisses me off too. I slam my fist against the steering wheel, wishing so many things. I wish I hadn't met Will the first week I was here. It would have been so much easier if I'd met him in class first. Or better yet, I wish we had never even moved to Ypsilanti. I wish my dad were alive. I wish my mother weren't being so vague about her errands. I wish Calder weren't at our house every day. Seeing him just makes me think of Will. I wish Will had never fixed my Jeep. I hate that he does considerate things like that. It would make it so much easier to hate him if he really were all those things I called him. Oh my God, I can't believe I called him all those names. Wait, no regrets. I pick the boys up from school and drive home. I beat Will home today, but I won't be waiting at the window. I'm done waiting at the window. We'll be at Calder's, Kel yells as they slam the Jeep door. Good. When I walk down the hallway, I hear my mother talking to someone in her bedroom, so I pause outside her door. It's a one-sided conversation, so she must be on the phone. Normally, I would never eavesdrop on one of her conversations. However, her behavior lately warrants a little nosiness. Or maybe my behavior warrants a little rebellion. Either way, I cut my ear to the door. I know. I'll tell them soon, she says. No, I think it will go over better if I tell them alone. Of course I will. I love you too, babe. She's signing off. I quietly tiptoe to my bedroom and slip inside. I shut the door behind me and slide to the floor. 7 months. It took her all of 7 months to move on. She can't be seeing someone else already, but her words on the phone couldn't have been more clear. I'm in stage 1 again. Denial. How could she? And whoever he is, he already wants her to introduce us to him? I already don't like him. And her nerve! How could she accost Will like she did, when what she's doing is just as deplorable, if not worse? Stage 1 is extremely brief. I'm back in stage 2 again. Anger. I decide not to bring it up right away. I want to find out more before I confront her about it. I want the upper hand in this situation, and it's going to take some thought. Blake, are you back? She's knocking on my door. I have to roll forward and hop up to get out of the way when she opens it. She sees me jump up and she eyes me curiously. What are you doing? She asks. Stretching. My back hurts. She doesn't buy it. So I clasp my hands behind me and stretch my arms upward, bending forward. Take some aspirin, she says. Okay. I'm off tonight, but I have a lot of sleep to catch up on. I didn't get any at all today, so I'm going to lie down. Can you make sure Kel gets a bath before he goes to bed? Sure. We both start down the hallway. Wait, Mom? She turns back to me, her lids dragging over her bloodshot eyes. I'm going out Thursday night. Is that okay? She eyes me suspiciously. With who? Eddie, Gavin, and Nick. 3 guys? You aren't going anywhere with 3 guys. No, Eddie's a girl. She's my friend. Her boyfriend is Gavin, and we're double dating. I'm going with Nick. Her eyes brighten a little. Oh, well, good. She smiles and opens the door to her bedroom. Wait, she says. I work Thursday. What about Kel? Will has a sitter on Thursdays. He already said Kel could stay there. She looks pleased, but only for a second. Will agreed to pay a sitter? To watch Kel? So you could go on a date? Crap. I didn't realize how this would look. Mom, it's been weeks. We went on 1 date. We're over it. She stares at me for several seconds. She returns to her room, still unappeased. Her suspicion brings me a small sense of gratification. She thinks I'm lying about something. Now we're even. I'm not going to 3rd period, I say to Eddie as we exit history. Why not? I just don't feel like it. Headache. I think I'll go sit in the courtyard and get some fresh air. I turn and start to head to the courtyard when she grabs my arm. Layken, does this have anything to do with what happened at lunch yesterday with Mr. Cooper? Is everything okay? I smile at her reassuringly. No, it's fine. He just wants me to refrain from my colorful choice of words in his class. She purses her lips together and walks away with the same unappeased look my mother had last night. The courtyard is empty. I guess none of the other students need a breather from the teacher they're secretly in love with. I sit at a bench and pull my phone out of my pocket. Nothing. I've only spoken to Karis once since I moved. She was the friend in Texas I was closest to, but she was actually best friends with another girl. It's odd when your best friend has an even better best friend. I chalked it up to the fact that I was too busy for best friends, but maybe it was more than that. Maybe I'm not a good listener. Maybe I'm not a good sharer. Mind if I join you? I look up and Eddie is taking a seat on the bench across from me. Misery loves company, I say. Misery? And why are we miserable? You have a date to look forward to tomorrow night, and your best friend is me, she says. Best friend. Maybe. Hopefully. You don't think Will is going to come looking for us? I say. She cocks her head at me. Will? You mean Mr. Cooper? Oh, God, I just called him Will. She's already suspicious. I smile and come up with the first excuse that pops into my head. Yeah, Mr. Cooper. We call teachers by their first names at my last school. She doesn't respond. She's picking at the paint on the bench with her blue fingernail. 9 of her fingernails are green. Just the one is blue. I'm just going to say something here, she says. Her voice is calm. Maybe I'm way off base. Maybe I'm not, but whatever I say, I don't want you to interject. I nod. I think what was happening at lunch yesterday was more than just a slap on the wrist for inappropriate verbal usage. I don't know how much more, and honestly, it's none of my business. I just want you to know you can talk to me if you need to. I'd never repeat anything. I don't have anyone besides Gavin to repeat stuff to. No one? Best friends? Siblings? I hope this changes the subject. Nope. He's all I have, she says. Well, technically, if you want to know the truth, I've had 17 sisters, 12 brothers, 6 moms, and 7 dads. I can't tell if she's making a joke, so I don't laugh in case she isn't. Foster care, she says. I'm on my 7th home in 9 years. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. Don't be. I've been with Joel for 4 of those 9 years. He's my foster dad. It works. I'm content. He gets his check. Were any of your 29 siblings blood related? She laughs. Man, you pay attention. And no, I'm an only child, born to a mother with a yen for cheap crack and pricey babies. She can see I'm not following. She tried to sell me. Don't worry, nobody wanted me. Or she was just asking too much. When I was 9, she offered me to a lady in a Walmart parking lot. She gave her a sob story about how she couldn't take care of me, yada yada. Offered a lady a deal. $100 was my going rate. It wasn't the first time she tried this right in front of me. I was getting bored with it, so I looked right at the lady and said, "You got a husband? I bet he's hot." My mother backhanded me for ruining the sale. Left me in the parking lot. The lady took me to the police station and dropped me off. That's the last time I ever saw my mom. God, Eddie, that's unreal. Yeah, it is. But it's my real. I lie down on the bench and look up at the sky. She does the same. You said Eddie was a family name, I say. Which family? Don't laugh. But what if I think it's funny? She rolls her eyes. There was a comedy DVD my first foster family owned, Eddie Izzard. I thought I had his nose. I watched that DVD a million times, pretending he was my dad. I had people refer to me as Eddie after that. I tried Izzard for a while, but it never stuck. We both laugh. I pull my jacket off and pull it on top of me, sliding my arms through it backwards so that it warms the parts of me that have been exposed to the cold for too long. I close my eyes. I had amazing parents. I sigh. Had? My dad died 7 months ago. My mother moved us up here, claimed it was for financial reasons. But now I'm not so sure she was being honest. She's seeing someone else already. So yes, amazing is past tense at the moment. Suck. We both lie there pondering the hands we were dealt. Mine pales in comparison to hers, the things she must have seen. Kel is the same age now that Eddie was when she was put into foster care. I don't know how she walks around so happy, so full of life. We're quiet. Everything is comfortably quiet. I silently wonder if this is what it feels like to have a best friend. She sits up on the bench after a while, hands stretched out in front of her as she yawns. Earlier, the thing I said about Joel and me being a check to him, it's not like that. He's really been a great guy. Sometimes when things get too real, my sarcasm takes over. I smile at her in understanding. Thanks for skipping with me. I really needed it. Thanks for needing it. Apparently I did too. And about Nick. He's a good guy, just not for you. I'll drop it. But you still have to go with us tomorrow. I know I do. If I don't, Chuck Norris will hunt me down and kick my ass. I flip my jacket around and ease my arms in as we walk through the door and back into the hallway. So, if Eddie is something you made up, what's your real name? I ask her before we part ways. She smiles and shrugs her shoulders. Right now, it's Eddie. Chapter 8. I want to have friends that will let me be all alone when being alone is all that I need. The Avett Brothers. The Perfect Space. "Where's Mom?" I ask Kel. He's sitting at the bar with his homework out. "She just dropped me and called her off. Said she would be back in a couple of hours. She wants you to order pizza." If I'd been home a few minutes sooner, I would have followed her. "Did she say where she was going?" I ask him. "Can you ask them to put the pepperonis under the sauce this time?" "Where'd she say she was going?" "No, wait. Tell them to put the pepperonis on first, then the cheese, then the sauce on top." "Damn it, Kel! Where did she go?" His eyes grow wide as he climbs off the stool and walks backward toward the front door. He slumps his shoulders and slips his shoes on. I've never cussed at him before. "No, don't I. Calder's to going, I'm. Be back by 6. I'll have your pizza." I decide to knock my homework out first. Mr. Hansen may be half deaf and half blind, but he makes up for that in the sheer volume of homework he assigns. I finish within an hour. It's just 4:30. I take this opportunity to play detective. Whatever she's up to and whomever she's with, I'm determined to find out. I rummage through kitchen drawers, cabinets, hallway closets. Nothing. I've never snooped in my parents' room before. Ever. This is definitely a year of firsts, though, so I let myself in and close the door behind me. Everything is the same as it was in their old bedroom. Same furniture, same beige carpet. If it weren't for the lack of space, I would hardly be able to tell the difference between this room and the one she shared with my father. I check the obvious first, the underwear drawer. I don't find anything. I move to the edge of the bed and slide open the drawer to her nightstand. Eye mask, pen, lotion, book, note. Note. I slip it out of the drawer and open it. It's written in black ink, centered down the page. It's a poem. "Julia, I'll paint you a world one day, a world where smiles don't fade, a world where laughter is played in the background like a PSA. I'll paint it when the sun goes down, while you're lying there in your gown. The moment your smile turns around, I'll paint right over your frown. I'll be finished when the sun breaks in. You'll wake with a still wet grin. You'll see that I finish when I begin. The world I've painted on your chin." It's pathetic. The world I've painted on your chin? Like a PSA? What is that anyway? Public service announcement? Who rhymes with acronyms? Whoever he is, I don't like him. I hate him. I fold the note up and put it back in its place. I call Getty's and order 2 pizzas. Mama's pulling up in the driveway when I hang up the phone. Perfect opportunity for a shower. I lock myself in the bathroom before she makes it inside. I don't want to see the look on her face. That look of falling in love. "What the hell?" my mother says when she opens up the box of pizza. "That's Kel's. It's backward," I tell her. She rolls her eyes as she pulls the second box toward her. It makes me cringe how her eyes scroll over all the slices of pizza, like she's trying to find the one that tastes the best. They're all slices from the same pizza. Just pick one, I snap. She flinches. "Geez, Lake, have you eaten today?" "Quite the crab, are we?" She picks up a slice and thrusts it towards me. I throw it on my plate and plop down at the bar when Kel comes running in backward. "Here pizza thee is?" he asks right before he trips over the rug and lands on his butt. "God, Kel, grow up," I snap. My mother shoots me a look. "Lake, what is your problem? Is there something you need to talk about?" I push my pizza across the table and get up from the bar. I can't pretend anymore. "No, Mother, there's nothing I need to talk about. I don't keep secrets." She sucks in a small gasp of air. This is it. She knows I know. I expect her to defend herself, yell at me, put up a fight, send me to my room. Something. Isn't that what happens when things come to fruition? The climax? Instead, she simply looks away and grabs a plate for Kel, filling it with slices of backward pizza. I march to my room and slam the door. Again. Who knows how many doors I've slammed since we moved here? I'm constantly leaving or entering rooms, pissed off at someone. Will slams poems. I slam doors. The alarm clock is flashing red when I wake up. The power must have gone out overnight. The sun is unusually bright for this early in the morning, so I grab my phone to check the time. And sure enough, we overslept. I jump out of bed and throw on my clothes, brush my teeth, and pull my hair on top of my head. No time for makeup. I wake Kel up and rush him to get dressed while I gather my homework. No time for coffee either. But I ride to school with Calder in the mornings. Kel whines as we pull our jackets on. Not today. We overslept. It's apparent we aren't the only ones who overslept when I see Will's car still in his driveway. Great. I can't just leave and not wake them up. Kel, go knock on their door and wake them up. Kel runs across the street and beats on the door as I climb inside my Jeep and crank it. I turn the heater up full blast and grab the scraper and start wiping the frost away from the windows. I get the final window cleared when Kel returns. No one answered the door. I think they're still asleep. Ugh. I hand the scraper to Kel and tell him to get inside the Jeep. Then I walk to Will's house. Kel already tried the front door, so I walk to the side of the house that the bedrooms are on. I don't know which one is Will's, so I knock on all 3 windows just to be sure I wake someone up. As I round the front of the house, the front door swings open, and Will is standing there, shielding his eyes from the sun, shirtless. My hands have touched those abs before. I force myself to look away. Power went out. We overslept. I tell him. We feels odd. It's like I'm insinuating we're a team. What? He says groggily, rubbing his face. What time is it? Almost 8. He immediately perks up. Shit, he says, remembering something. I've got a conference at 8. He turns back inside but leaves the door open. I peek my head further inside but don't dare step over the threshold.